If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon. Link is in the description.
Chapter 101, Games and Tremors. Harry was hovering over the field, next to their captain Oliver. He watched as the two Bludgers went up in the air. The Weasley twins hurried up to hit them in the enemy team's direction before the Slytherin beaters had the chance to do the same. The quaffle was thrown by Professor Hooch in a straight angle and Angelina did not waste time to try and grab it. But the one Harry was paying the most attention to was the golden snitch. This one flew around the Bludgers and continued to go up until it got lost in the clouds. Okay, Harry. This is just your first game, so try not to get too nervous. All you have to do is hover over the field, and if you see a golden glint, you go F. Oliver was taken aback when he saw Harry propel himself at a tremendous speed towards the clouds. Harry, wait. You'll never find the snitch in there. He tried to warn him. Whoa, what is the new seeker doing? Jordan stared into the distance. He is flying into the clouds, does he really expect to find the snitch in there? Many of the students watching started to laugh. What is that idiot doing? He is just a second year, what did you expect? Does he actually think he can find that tiny thing in there? They should have taught him better. What a stupid thing to do. Lyra looked around with a frown. Hey, you guys shut up. She yelled at the ones making fun of her brother. James was watching towards the clouds with rapt attention, trying to figure out what Harry's plan was. He did not enjoy hearing the jabs of the other students, but he could understand where they were coming from at least. If this was a normal second-year student, that would have been a very mindless thing to do and it would be treated as a novice mistake. But they did not know what his son was capable of, and to be honest, neither did he. You think he has a plan? Lily asked her husband. What kind of plan? Lyra asked. I think we will have to wait and see. James didn't want to admit that he also had no clue. This was definitely not in the playbook of any team. Shiny. Holly pointed at the sky. There was a flash of something golden descending from the clouds. Good job, Holly, that's the snitch, James told her. A second later, something came out of the clouds so fast that they seemed to trace behind it. Slytherin's seeker reacted immediately and flew to the point where he saw the golden flash. The snitch has reappeared, and booth seekers are chasing it now. Jordan stood from his seat. This is a lot faster than usual. Ah! James had realized something. The snitch from school Quidditch is different from the professional one. Is a lot slower to allow students to catch it much more easily, preventing games from dragging unnecessarily. But to deter the games from ending too quickly, the ball had also been enchanted to hide during the first 15 to 20 minutes of the game. Harry had basically forcefully dragged it back into the game before it was time. What an impatient boy! James said with a smile. He is flying straight down. Lyra exclaimed. Wait, what is he doing? Lily started to become worried when she did not see him slow down at all. The snitch passed through the middle of the field, avoiding several players, and was quickly followed by Harry. The Slytherin team did not even have the chance to interfere and gain time so their own seeker could approach. The snitch continued to fly towards the ground as fast as it could go and Harry was closing the gap at a fast rate, but the grassy floor of the field was also quickly approaching him. Oh no, he is too focused on the snitch, he is going to crash. Lily stood up from her seat. Gryffindor's new seeker is really going for it. He is making a dive. Jordan screamed. Professor McGonagall stared at Harry with concern. Is he crazy? Daphne could not help herself from saying out loud. When it was only 10 feet away from touching the ground, the golden snitch made a 90-degree turn to one side and flew parallel to the grass. But Harry had already predicted its path and got in the snitch way. The winged sphere collided against his side and Harry quickly grabbed it while making sure to keep the broom steady. At this point, he was less than 5 feet away from the ground. As soon as he had it secure, he flew up and held the golden snitch on his right hand, to show the crowd. He got it. He fucking got it. Jordan proclaimed loudly on his microphone. Professor McGonagall was so baffled that she forgot to scold him. Yeah, well done, Harry. James cheered. Uff. Lily breathed a sigh of relief and sat back down. We won already. Lyra found it hard to believe. The game had just started. The rest of the audience was equally baffled. We won a game against Slytherin. How did he get the snitch so fast? I can't believe what I just saw. Gryffindor's seeker got the snitch, hold on, what is his name? Jordan hurried to go through the roster of the team that he didn't bother looking before. Right, Potter, Harry Potter. The new seeker from Gryffindor had gotten the golden snitch and ended the game 150-0 for Slytherin after 2 minutes and 32 seconds of the game. Gryffindor wins. Jordan screamed. We lost already. Theodore not stared at the score. How can that be? We never had a chance to score a single point, how is that fair? Zabanai said. Tisk, for one game I came to watch in person. What a disgrace. Pansy huffed. Uff. Daphne breathed a sigh of relief and sat back down. You okay, Daph? Tracy asked. Pansy turned her head to look at her. What wrong, Daphne? Nothing. Daphne was quick to recover her usual calm demeanor. Pansy smiled. Come on, Daph, we have known each other for many years, you looked very worried a moment ago. She looked back at the field where Harry was now flying. Could it be? Pansy's smile quickly faded from her face and was replaced by panic when the ground started to shake violently and the stands trembled. She had been standing up when the earthquake started, so she lost her balance and fell backwards while screaming for help. Both Nott and Zabanai were busy holding to their own seats to prevent themselves from falling and did not even notice the girl falling over the rails right next to them. Pansy! Daphne jumped from her seat and moved forward to grab her hand before she went over the rails. But by the time she managed to grab onto Pansy's arm, it was too late and the force of gravity sent them both down to their doom. Chapter 102, Flying Rescue. Harry heard people all over the stadium screaming in panic as the towers holding the stands shook and trembled, but luckily they seemed to hold firm. He first glanced over the Gryffindor side where his family was sitting and he confirmed that they were all holding well. But then, he spotted something falling from the Slytherin stands, followed by the desperate screams of two girls. He pushed his Nimbus 1900 to its limits. I won't make it in time. They were getting too close to the ground. He circulated more of his magic through the broom runic array and this one drastically increased its speed. Harry arrived at their side in an instant. Grabbed one of the girls under his left arm and the other one over his right shoulder. The girls stopped screaming when they realized they were no longer falling. Harry. Daphne stammered the words when she looked down and saw his familiar dark messy hair and gold-red robes. Harry gazed at the blonde girl on his shoulder. Hang on, Daphne, I'll get us down. We got saved by a Gryffindor. Pansy exclaimed. Harry moved his eyes to check on the other girl he was holding. I have just saved the life of Lord Parkinson's daughter. He felt a bit conflicted about that one. The man had been aiming for his parents' lives and in return, he just saved his family. That is not how he usually did things, but he couldn't just leave the girl to her fate. It was not in his nature. You two, hang on. I'll descend careful. His broom started to tremble and shake. That's not careful at all, Potter. Pansy shouted. Harry. Daphne called. Oh, well shit, I broke the runes. We are. The broom stopped its flight and plummeted abruptly. He burned down the rune array by overcharging with magic when he increased the speed of the broom past its limits. Now the magical flying broom had nothing magical about itself, it was just a piece of wood. Ah! Pansy started to scream again. Do something! Daphne shouted. Wands were not allowed for Quidditch players. It was a good thing that no one checked for hidden holsters. The spare wand appeared on Harry's left hand and he did his best to point it down while not letting the girl fall. They must have been only around 20 feet off the ground when Harry spoke the words. Ealos. Harry had to cast it out loud to increase its power and speed since it had to lift 3 people this time. A powerful gust of wind appeared beneath them, slowing their fall until they almost stooped, then, allowed them to descend slowly. The trio reached the ground and the wind disappeared. We are safe. Pansy said with disbelief. Harry noticed Daphne looking around before glancing back at him with a shocked expression. Are you hurt? He asked her. No. I'm fine, thanks. She stammered the words, looking very shaken. Harry looked up at the stands. The tremors had stopped and it didn't seem like anyone else had fallen down from them. He still wanted to go check on his family, just to make sure. He went to pick up his broom. It was useless to fly now, but it was still a birthday present from his parents. He was not leaving it here. Are you two going to be okay? I want to go check on someone. Harry told the girls. I'm fine, Potter. Pansy seemed to have recovered her nerves after the experience. Thank you, I won't forget about this. Daphne didn't say anything but kept staring at the spot where he cast the spell. Harry shrugged it off as the girl being in a momentary state of shock, but at least she wasn't physically harmed. He turned around and ran to the Gryffindor's stands. Daphne stared at his back as he left. Pansy was not there that day when Neville played his only Quidditch match, but she was. She saw very well the wind magic that Neville had supposedly invoked by accident when his life was in danger. Or that was what the rumors told. That was the same magic, I have no doubt now. It was Harry the one that cast that spell. This means that all of those rumors about Longbottom doing accidental magic. It wasn't really that surprising to her that Harry was capable of doing this. After all, she already knew that it was him the one who defeated Professor Nair the previous year. But it still gave her something to think about. The only thing she did not understand was why was Harry doing this? Why go so far as to protect Longbottom while remaining in the dark? Harry was an enigma to Daphne. A wizard with that amount of power at his age would easily be considered the second coming of Merlin if people knew about it. She found herself wanting to know more and more about him. Daphne, stop staring so much, he is gone already. Pansy woke her up from her trance. I wasn't staring at him, let's just go. Daphne put back her usual calm expression. Of course, wait until I get my hands on those two idiots who let me fall, they are going to hear me, ... Pansy huffed. But I should also thank you, Daphne, for trying to save me at least. She shrugged. Someone had to. Harry had to open way amidst the sea of people wanting to get down the stands and finally made it to the top where he found his family. He could finally breathe when he confirmed they all seemed okay. Harry. Lyra came running to his side and hugged him. This was not a usual reaction for her, but she appeared to be really shaken by the experience. I'm fine, what about you, ... She did not let him go. I'm scared, why is this happening? This was supposed to be a fun year. This will be over soon enough, you'll see, Lyra. Don't worry. Harry promised her. I'll take care of it, somehow. Chapter 103, A Debt. So, no one got hurt? Harry asked. Harry. Lily and James came to his side. We are fine, luckily these stands had managed to hold, despite that tremor, James said. It wasn't luck, I'm sure these structures are heavily reinforced with magic so they will never fail. Lily explained. Yes, but you can still fall from them, added Harry. Why didn't you tell us anything about the earthquakes that had been occurring since the start of the year? James was looking straight at Harry with a serious expression. It didn't seem that important. And I'm sure Lyra has already filled you in. Harry brushed aside his concerns. Strange occurrences at Hogwarts were a common thing for him. She did tell us, but I didn't think they were this bad. Lily commented. Now that she mentioned it, I did notice that the tremors seemed to be getting more violent. This just added to his sense of urgency to find the cause and put an end to it, before someone gets seriously hurt, or dies. He was still not completely convinced that the giant snake living under Hogwarts was the culprit. After all, even a monster of that size should not have the strength to shake a giant castle like Hogwarts. However, the Chamber of Secrets was the only place he had yet to search, so the answer should be there, hopefully. That was his only plan for the moment. But without a parcel mouth to open the entrance, I'm going to have to resort to more drastic methods. I will need to find a way to force Dumbledore out of the castle or he will definitely notice what I'm planning on doing. His father is a member of the Wizengamot, so he could ask him to call an emergency meeting, but he is going to want to know more about what his son is planning on doing at school if he makes that request. Maybe it's better if I just ask her. Harry. James got closer and put a hand on his shoulder. Leaving the earthquake aside, that was a fantastic game. I think you may have broken some record there, ... Yes, it was very short thought. Lyra added. Of course, we are glad that you won, dear. But, I would prefer if you keep those reckless maneuvers to a minimum in the future, no need to risk your life for a school game. His mother reminded him. Harry, you flew very high. Holly raised her hands in the air. He smiled. I did. When you are a bit older, maybe I can take you to fly with me. He glanced at his parents. Maybe. Lily did not seem convinced. Yes, let's go. Holly exclaimed. When you are older, not now little lady, Lily told her. During the next day, people talked mostly about two things, the last earthquake and the Quidditch game. The new Gryffindor Seeker had surprised everyone with his speed, and now everyone was throwing glances at Harry as he passed through the corridors. However, Harry's mind was currently preoccupied with something else. That will do. He finished writing the note he was planning on passing to Daphne. Her father was a member of the school board of governors, and as such, was qualified to call for a very much deserved meeting to discuss the current incidents in the school. To be fair, they should have already closed it for safety. The headmaster must have pulled several favors to prevent the board or the ministry from taking action so far. But that was not going to last long. Professor McGonagall announced the end of today's classes. Harry walked outside the classroom and waited, hoping to have a chance to give Daphne the note he had written. What he was not expecting was a group of several Slytherin students walking directly towards him in the hall. With Pansy Parkinson at the front, followed closely by Daphne, Trace, Nott, and Zabini. "Potter, I wanted to have a word with you," Pansy called for him. Harry turned to look at her and waited for her to approach. Pansy and the rest stopped in front of him. "I wanted to formally thank you for saving my life yesterday. If there is anything I can do to repay you for that, all you have to do is ask." "I see." Harry could understand where she was coming from. For pure-blood families who follow old traditions, this could be even considered a life debt, and it would be a huge deal. He was about to brush her off as this was a small thing for him, but an idea came to him. This could be an opportunity to strike at the Death Eaters, and it would be foolish to just let it go. "I understand, Miss Parkinson. I formally accept your thanks. I will inform you when I can think of a form of repayment. I will be waiting then." Pansy nodded to him. The group started to walk away, but Daphne remained behind. "I also wanted to." "Daphne." Harry interrupted her and got closer to her. His face was only a few inches away from hers. He wanted to make sure that no one saw this. What? Daphne was startled by his sudden closeness and blushed slightly. But then she noticed that he placed something on her hand. "Read it when you are alone, is very important, please," Harry whispered to her herd. "Oh, and you don't have to thank me. I will always protect my friends." Unaware of the girl's embarrassment, Harry walked away. If everything goes smoothly, Lord Greengrass may be able to drive Dumbledore away from Hogwarts by Monday. It was already the end of the week and he will have to give at least one day of notice. "I will need to make some preparations, I have a giant snake to kill," again. Chapter 104, Daphne's Dilemma. On the next day, Harry received an answer from Daphne. "The meeting will take place on Monday at midday and will likely last until night time." Lord Greengrass was very easy to convince after learning what happened to his daughter after the Quidditch game, and was absolutely furious with the headmaster for allowing this to continue for this long without taking any measures. Dumbledore was not going to a pleasant Monday. But to be fair, Harry did not think that he was going to be any better. He was not looking forward to fighting that beast one more time. Daphne had of course wanted to know what he was planning on doing, since it was big enough that it required the absence of the headmaster. But since she took Harry's request as her chance to return the favor of saving her, she did not push for information too much and did what he asked her. That girl was truly curious. He only told her that it was related to the tremors but did not elaborate further. Morning classes ended at 12 p.m. Harry had already prepared everything he was going to need in his bag. If all goes according to plan, he will be done before lunch is over and none will be the wiser. All he had to do was blow up that girl's bathroom, go in, kill the snake, get out, and repair the damage. Very simple stuff. What could go wrong? Daphne has been carefully observing Harry all day. He had once again refused to share his plans with her, and this frustrated her to no end. But she could not push further, especially now that she owed him a huge debt. What do I have to do to earn his trust? Daphne wondered as she looked at Harry. Today he seemed a lot more tense than usual, making her even more curious about what he was planning to do. He had been a mystery since the first time she saw him. Daphne had initially only started to pay attention to him because he was the brother of Lyra, who had become close friends with her sister. She never heard Lyra talk about her brother, so Daphne assumed there was nothing remarkable about him, like the rest of the boys she had met until that point. But since the first moment she laid eyes on him, she noticed how different he was, compared to the other students. The way he moved, the way he spoke, the way Harry carried himself almost reminded her of someone else. Her grandfather, Augustus Greengrass, had been a veteran war wizard from the Grindelwald era, and worked as an Auror for many years after that, delegating the family business to his younger brother. She had only the chance to meet him a few times before he passed away. But she will never forget about him. Even in his old age, Augustus had this powerful aura around him. It was hard to describe, but being next to him made her feel safe. Like she knew that no matter what happened, her grandfather would be capable of dealing with it. Much to her surprise, she felt the same aura in Harry Potter, who was the same age as her. It made no sense, but it drove her to pay more attention to him. The more she observed him, the less sense it made. His performance in class could only be described as average. He completed the tasks given to him with little interest and always had this bored countenance on his face. She wanted to know more, to find out if he was truly someone capable who was hiding his true skills or if it was all a pretense to appear more mature. The day she discovered Malfoy's silly ploy to get Longbottom into trouble, she decided to intervene. Longbottom was another boy she had been paying attention to. Her father had informed her about the dangerous situation that their family was in. They were in dire need of an alliance with a powerful family who held no ties with the Dark Lord. The first choice her father suggested was the Longbottoms. It was an ancient family, members of the original Wizard Council, and there was no family more opposed to the Dark Lord than them. He still had some reservations, because it would put them in direct conflict with the other side, and also because he knew next to nothing about the boy himself. Sebastian Greengrass may follow the old traditions, but he would not pledge his daughter to someone he didn't know. That's why he gave her the task of measuring Neville Longbottom as a potential future ally and partner. Daphne had been more than dissatisfied with the boy who lived. The chubby boy looked to be always nervous or scared, or both. He was nothing like the rumors she had heard about him, or what those popular books displayed. That night she dragged Tracy and went to find Longbottom to warn him about the trap. She did not expect to find Potter also there, but then, something happened. With Argus Filch on their tail, she saw Potter take charge of the situation with a calm demeanor and guided them to safety. He also did it by effortlessly opening a door that, she would later find out, should have been impossible for a student to open. That day, it became clear to her that Harry Potter was a lot more capable than he let on. Then it came the day of their first flying lesson and the event that started all those crazy rumors about Longbottom and his accidental magic. She was probably the only one who noticed it because she was the only one keeping an eye on Potter instead of Longbottom. But at the crucial time, when Longbottom had started to fall, she saw Harry make some strange movements and muttered something. Moments later, Longbottom was saved and the rumors about his mystical accidental magic started to circulate around the school. Daphne did not believe those rumors, because she was convinced it had been none other than Harry Potter, the one who had cast that spell. She did not share her suspicions with Tracy, or anyone else, because they sounded almost as ridiculous as the stories about Longbottom. However, she did decide to take an important step that day. She requested a meeting with him and made the suggestion of an alliance. Her idea was to have her father meet Harry. Sebastian Greengrass was known for having a great sense of measuring people, a skill very much necessary for his job. So she wanted to see if her father could sense the same in Harry that she did. When she heard her father made the proposal of an alliance with the Potters, Daphne had no more doubts about Harry Potter's suitability. And after that day, Harry continued to surprise her with the amount of magical knowledge he seemed to possess. More than anything, she wanted to know how far he could go. How much was he capable of doing and where did all this knowledge come from? She needed to know, so today, she decided to follow him after class and find out. Chapter 105, What is he up to? Hey, isn't that your brother, Harry? Ginny pointed at the boy who had passed by them. I think so, but where is he going? The Great Hall is that way. Lyra pointed to the corridor at their right. I don't know, but he appeared to be in a hurry. Ginny then noticed someone run after him and then stopped to hide behind one of the many sets of medieval armor spread around the castle. That person kept peeking toward Harry and then headed after him. Lyra, I think that blonde girl looks very suspicious, she seems to be following Harry. Is that a Slytherin uniform? Lyra could only get a glimpse of her green tie before she strode away. Why would a Slytherin girl be following my brother? Maybe she is a stalker, Ginny suggested. He is not famous enough to have stalkers. Lyra said. However, after the last Quidditch game, a lot of people started to talk about her brother's flying skills. Including many students from her class. Let's follow her. Lyra decided. What, now? But I'm hungry. Ginny groaned. We can skip one meal. I want to know what my brother is up to and why is that girl following him. Lyra, remember what happened the last time we followed Harry, Ginny cried. Yes, that was kind of fun. Lyra smiled. It wasn't fun at all. Ginny shouted at her with frustration. Lyra stopped to think for a second. Maybe fun had not been the best way to describe it. But she did not regret doing what she did that day. It allowed her to learn more about the mystery that had become her brother. And this looked like another chance to do the same. That is what her instincts were telling her. Come on, where is your sense of adventure? Besides, aren't you even a bit curious? Lyra asked. Ginny looked pensive for a moment. Fine, let's Legs go, she is getting away. Lyra held onto Ginny's arm and dragged her away before she had the chance to agree to go. They continued to carefully follow the blonde Slytherin girl until they found themselves in an unfamiliar part of the castle. Where are we? Asked Ginny. Not sure, but I think this is the 6th floor, I lost count of how many stairs we went through. The blonde girl took a turn around a corner and disappeared from their sight. Hurry Ginny, we can't lose her now. Lyra said with urgency. They didn't even know how to go back at this point. Leaving caution to the wind, the duo started to run. They turned the corner at full speed and had no time to avoid the collision when they found the blonde girl standing behind a column. The Slytherin girl yelped in a mixture of pain and surprise before turning her head around and getting a good look at her attackers. Lyra. Lyra and Ginny were now able to check up and close, the face of the Slytherin girl they had been chasing for the last 5 minutes. Daphne. Lyra immediately recognized her. SHH, lower your voices, Daphne whispered to them. What are you doing here? We thought you were a stalker, Ginny answered. What are you talking about? Daphne scowled. We saw you following my brother, I didn't recognize you, so we decided to follow. I'm not stalking Harry, I was just wondering what he was up to, that's all. Daphne looked away. How do you know he is up to something? Ginny asked. I don't think I should tell you that. She was hesitant to reveal any further information. Come on, Daphne. It is something about my brother, I have the right to know, please Lyra implored. She sighed. Very well. But you better keep this a secret. Or I will never trust you again with anything, I'm serious, Daphne warned her. I'm great at keeping secrets, Ginny reassured her. I'll try my best. Lyra promised. Harry made a formal request from my family. He wanted for my father to call an emergency meeting of the school board. Why would he want to do that? Ginny didn't understand. He needed to drive the headmaster away from Hogwarts for a few hours, Daphne told them. What could he be planning on doing that requires him to force the headmaster away? Lyra was getting a bad feeling from this. Her brother was not the prankster type, so this must be something more serious. He told me it was related with the tremors, but did not elaborate any further than that. She told the girls. He knows what's causing the mysterious earthquakes? Ginny asked. If he knows that, why not inform the professors instead? Lyra wondered out loud. I have only known your brother for a year or so, but he seems the type who prefers to do everything by themselves, Daphne remarked. Maybe now, he has changed so much the last year. Lyra kept those thoughts to herself. And what is he planning on doing exactly? Wait, where is he? She had not seen any trace of her brother since she stumbled upon Daphne. I don't know what he's planning. That's why I followed him. Daphne pointed to a nearby door. But he went in there. Ginny and Lyra stared at the door, and then at the familiar sign at the top. That's a girl's bathroom. Lyra shouted. Yes, I didn't even know there was a bathroom here. Daphne said. Why would he go in there? Ginny wondered. I swear if he did all of this just to spy on some girl. Lyra said with narrow eyes. I don't think DHA. Before Ginny could finish her sentence, there was a loud explosion inside the bathroom, and smoke started to pour from beneath the door. Harry. Lyra started to run, followed by the other 2 girls. Chapter 106, The Chamber of Secrets. Harry landed on a mountain of skulls that were piled up at the bottom of the hole. The smell is as bad as I remembered it. He made it inside the chamber while still in one piece. Opening the entrance by brute force had been even more dangerous than he originally predicted. Salazar Slytherin had weaved some very nasty curses inside the protective layers. Explosions of acid, followed by organ-dissolving curses, spikes dipped in venom, that man really wanted to kill anyone who dared to intrude into his chamber of secrets. Well, joke's on him, didn't even lose a limb. He did have to resort to his strongest defense though. Okay, let's find that snake. Harry got out of the pool of bones and stepped into the chamber proper. Ahead of him lies another closed door that he will have to break open before encountering the basilisk. Ah! No! Harry was startled by the shrieks of several girls. He turned his head just in time to see 3 figures landing on the bones. That was so scary. Ginny yelled. I mean, it wasn't that bad. Lyra tried to appear brave but she was obviously shaken. That was very unpleasant. I don't want to. Hey, what is this? Daphne looked down at the objects they were lying on. Ah! That was the first time Harry had heard Daphne shriek like that. Even when falling from the stands the other day, she kept a better composite than now. Are those skulls? Ginny was next to start screaming. Something is biting me, help! Lyra shouted. I think they are making more noise than me when I blew up the bathroom, I better help them. Harry went back to the pool of bones and assisted the girls out. He then waited patiently until they had calmed down a bit. Very well, now I would like to know why did you follow me here? Wait, before that. Lyra was quick to point at his face. Are you wearing earrings? Are you really asking me this now? He raised an eyebrow. Those rings are so pretty too. Ginny pointed out. Daphne frowned. Those look like magical artifacts, what do they do? She asked. This is not the time for this, now tell me, what are you doing here? He had a serious expression on his face and Lyra knew that there was no evading the question. We were just following Daphne. Lyra was quick to shift the blame to someone else. We thought she was a stalker. Added Ginny. I have no excuse. Daphne looked away. You 3 have no idea of the danger this place holds. Harry said. At least it is good that I spotted them before opening the last door of the chamber and releasing the basilisk. At least now, I can lead them out before going further with complete safety. Wait, what is this place? And how did find out about it, Dot? Lyra asked. Harry glanced at his sister. Her curious eyes reminded him of a distant past. Ginny and Daphne hid it a bit better, but they were also dying to know more. I will tell you with the condition that you keep your mouth shut about it. The last thing we need is more people trying to enter this place. Harry said. I promise. Ginny raised her hand. You have my word. Daphne recovered her usual serious expression. You know you can trust me. I didn't tell anyone about what happened in the basement. Lyra said. Lyra. Ginny pointed at Daphne. What happened in the basement? Daphne asked. Nothing happened. Lyra exclaimed before turning to Harry. See? Yes, I see you have a big mouth, fine. This is the Chamber of Secrets. The what? Lyra looked confused. Never heard of that. Ginny said. The Chamber of Secrets, the one built by Salazar Slytherin. Daphne walked past Harry and stared at the walls of the entrance. It was filled with carvings of snakes of all kinds. Amazing, I thought it was just a legend told to first years. Daphne said. So in the end, it was found by a Gryffindor. If the other Slytherin students found out about this, they would be ripping their hairs out. She then seemed to remember something. Wait, the monster. What monster? Ginny looked at Daphne with worry in her eyes. There is a monster here. Lyra shouted. Daphne glanced at pictures on the wall. The Chamber of Secrets is supposed to contain a deadly monster. The legend says that one day, the true heir of Slytherin will appear and release the beast upon the country to clean the impure blood. Impure blood, you mean Muggle-borns, like my mother? Lyra frowned. Is that what the Slytherin students want? Hey, don't group me with the blood purist, I don't think like that. And I have several friends in that house who agree with me. Daphne defended. Sorry, I didn't mean it to sound like that. Lyra looked somewhat ashamed. Is fine, Lyra. I know you didn't. Daphne glanced now at Harry. So you think the monster is the one responsible for all the tremors? What is the monster? Does it actually exist? Ginny asked. It must be some sort of snake, right? That's the only animal I imagine Salazar Slytherin keeping, but no snake should be able to survive this long. Daphne concluded. Is a basilisk, and is very much real and alive. Harry did not beat around the bush. He wanted to take these girls out, as soon as possible. A basilisk! Lyra exclaimed. Harry, you can't be serious. Even if you are right, did you come here to fight a basilisk alone? Daphne asked with disbelief. Are you crazy? Ginny shouted. My brother Charlie told me about them. He said that they can be more dangerous than dragons and that they can kill with just a look. They are very dangerous. That's why, I will be asking for you to leave this place. Right now. Harry pointed back at the hole they just come out of. You will need to climb back up the same way you entered. Are you really going to stay here? Daphne had a hard time believing what she was hearing. Lyra shook his shoulder. Harry, I know you are strong, but come on. Let's get out of here together and call for Professor McGonagall. I'm sure there is someone in the ministry they can call. Wait, if there is a basilisk in this chamber, why didn't it come out here yet? Ginny looked around with dread. The snake is locked behind a closed door at the end of the corridor, Harry explained. Harry. Daphne called for him. As long as that door is not open. Harry. Daphne shouted now. He turned around and saw her pointing at the corridor. Then he saw it, the circular door that sealed the basilisk area was completely unlocked and the door was being pushed open very slowly by something while making a chilling noise. Close your eyes. Chapter 107, Is it over? Or the basilisk. Daphne trembled in fear. Everything will be fine, just keep your eyes closed. Direct eye contact will kill you and indirect one will petrify you. Harry warned them. They heard the door making a loud sound as it was slammed open against the wall, followed by a threatening hiss. Should we run, maybe we can make it back to the pipes, Lyra suggested. No, stay where you are, and don't move. Harry ordered. He had also closed his eyes, so if the three scared girls started to run around, they might get caught in the crossfire. Harry. He heard Daphne's trembling voice as he walked in the direction of the snake. She was the closest one to the beast and was clearly hearing it approach her. He put a hand on her shoulder. Don't worry, Daphne. I won't let it hurt you, trust me. She seemed to calm down a bit after hearing his voice. Omnia Audio. Harry pronounced the charm loud and clear. All sounds became much easier to pick up after that. Even without seeing it, he could now tell the exact position of the snake. The skin of the basilisk is extremely resistant to magic. So throwing spells at it was not going to do much. Unfortunately for this particular basilisk, Harry's specialty was very much effective against it. It's getting ready to strike. By the sounds, he could tell that at least half Outfit's body was currently off the ground. Snakes would raise their heads up when they were about to strike and this one was doing the same. The hiss that came from above him just confirmed the current position of the beast. And that's all he needed. Petra. Harry knelt down and touched the stone floor of the corridor with the tip of his wand. This one immediately started to morph and deform like it had been turned into a liquid. Treatisim Hasti. 13 stone spears were shaped out of the stone floor and pierced the basilisk from its head up to the end of its body. The beast shrieked in pain as the spears impaled it and lifted it in the air. The girls were terrified by the noises they were hearing but did not dare to open their eyes or move. This continued for almost a minute, although it felt much longer for them. Eventually, the noises stopped, the basilisk was finally dead. You can open your eyes now, Harry told them. Lyra, Ginny, and Daphne did so and glanced with caution towards the corridor. They first saw Harry, who was standing up and observing the dead snake with interest. They then saw the basilisk itself. It died while being suspended in the air by the stone spears. It had its mouth open and blood poured from every part of its body. Its terrifying yellow eyes were also open, but they now looked lifeless and no longer power to kill anything. Lyra and Ginny let out another scream. They had never seen something so scary in their short lives. And the mere thought that this monster had been alive moments ago and moving towards them was truly a terrifying thought. Daphne looked more fascinated than scared. She had been hearing legends about this monster and the Chamber of Secrets even before attending Hogwarts. And now she was finally seeing it in person. The legendary monster was dead, right in front of her. Killed by a boy no older than herself and some unknown spell. If she ever told anyone about this, she would be taken for crazy. You actually killed Salazar Slytherin beast. Daphne had a hard time believing what she was seeing. It all felt so surreal. Is it really dead? Lyra approached slowly while keeping her eyes on the snake, hoping it would not sprout to life all of a sudden. It's massive. I didn't know basilisks were so big. Ginny exclaimed. They are not. Harry told her. This was a special case. One of a kind specimen who managed to continue living and growing for 1,000 years. I doubt there is another one even close to this size in the entire world. Harry moved his eyes back to the basilisk. He had left its eyes intact on purpose. He was going to need them for a ritual he planned on performing the next year. It may be a bad idea to call for Dobby right now, Daphne may recognize him. Is not that he suspected she was going to snitch to the ministry, but the fewer people who knew about the elf's current location, the better. He will have to call him after he takes the girls out. So, this monster. Lyra stared at the giant snake. Was the one creating those earthquakes we have been suffering all year? Harry didn't know what to answer. The snake was definitely big, but, to shake the entire castle, it just seemed impossible. It also seems smaller than I remember. That may be his imagination. It's been a long time since he fought it and he was much younger, mentally, and naive back then. The snake could have looked bigger to him because of that. However, there was still something else he wanted to check. Harry. Lyra saw her brother walk beneath the massive snake and disappear from sight. Where are you going? Should we follow him? Ginny wondered. She would feel safer if he was around. Daphne did not say a word and followed Harry's steps, passing beneath the basilisk. Ugh. Lyra hesitated for a moment. Because of the stone spears, the only way to cross the narrow corridor was by passing below the dead creature. It was lifted a good 10 feet in the air, so there was plenty of room, but was still unpleasant. Let's go too, Lyra. Ginny held her hand. The two of them walked in between the spears. There was still blood running through their stone surfaces, and there was a very pungent smell in the air. They hurried up to come out from there and found Harry and Daphne staring at the metal door that the snake had opened to escape. This is very strange. Lyra heard her brother muttering and wondered what he was referring to. Everything about this looked strange to her, strange and scary. Chapter 108, More Threats? What is it? Asked Daphne. This door is still locked. Harry glanced at the other part of the door where the locks should have connected. It was all bent and deformed. It looks like it was hit many times from the inside until it broke, Daphne commented. So that's it then. Lyra seemed to realize something. The basilisk must have woken up and has been hitting that door since then. Then, it finally managed to break it open during the day of the Quidditch game. Then why did it stay here? Ginny asked. Hey. Lyra tilted her head to one side. She had not thought that far ahead. The Quidditch game was almost 3 days ago. If that creature has been trying to escape for 2 months, why would it remain here after opening the door? Daphne replied. Ah, that's right. Lyra realized. Maybe he just liked it here. It has been living here for like 1,000 years, right? Oh, but then, why did it want to escape all of a sudden? We are missing something. Harry observed the walls of the corridor. It was filled with cracks, and they seemed very recent. Something was definitely trying to escape the chamber, but he didn't think it was this basilisk. The answers should be ahead. He went past the circular door and ventured further until he reached the core of the chamber. What is this? He needed a moment to process what he was seeing. The 3 girls approached too, and then, they saw it. Lyra and Ginny screamed at the sight while Daphne looked to be ready to throw up at any moment. What in Merlin's name happened in this place? Harry still recalled very vividly the pristine look the inner chamber had. With its pools of water and intricate statues. This chamber was in a state of absolute chaos. Giant cracks decorated the walls, and there was not a single statue that remained intact, including the massive bust of Salazar Slytherin that served as the entrance to the basilisk nest. But the most disturbing part were the bloodstains and the pieces of flesh and bones that were scattered everywhere. Ugh, the smell. Lyra covered her nose. It looks like there was a war in this chamber, and many had died in here. Daphne took out a handkerchief to cover her mouth and nose. How many basilisks were locked in here? Asked Ginny with horror. There was only supposed to be one. According to the myths at least. Daphne answered. There was only one, of that, I have no doubt. If Salazar had kept more than one in here, they would have killed each other many centuries ago. Then where did the others come from? He had no answer for that at the moment. Harry, what do you think? Asked Daphne. I think we should. He suddenly heard some movement coming from the cracks in the walls. The charm he used before to enhance his hearing was still active. Something is approaching. Get back into that corridor. Something, you mean more basilisks? Lyra asked with dread. Daphne took hold of Lyra and Ginny's arms before dragging them out. Come on, we would only get in the way. Harry managed to spot 2 basilisks coming out of the cracks in the walls before closing his eyes again. This makes little sense, but fine, I'll kill all of you, come here, ... He walked forward and allowed them to close the distance. His question will have to wait until the chamber is clear of dangers. The 2 snakes hissed while slithering closer to him. His spare wand appeared on his left hand. The transfiguration from before is not going to work in this open space, I'm going to have to get creative. He still has the 7 Arc Stones as a last resource, in case he needs to cast something big or his reserves become depleted. But he still had other ideas. He was about to start when he heard a familiar cry coming from above. From between a giant crack in the ceiling, a ball of fire descended and went to attack the of the basilisks. Fox, you came to help me again. Harry smiled after recognizing the new arrival. The basilisk on his right was now busy with the phoenix. So he could focus on the left. This makes things easier. Harry used both wands to conjure 6 giant blades in front of him. Depulso. He flickered both wands in the basilisk direction. The beast had just finished descending the wall when it found itself pierced by the swords. Each blade was over 6 feet long and became completely embedded into its flesh. While the one on the left was dying, the one fighting the phoenix let out a painful shriek. Harry opened his eyes slightly and watched through the shadows as Fox destroyed its eyes. Harry waited for a few more seconds until the left side basilisk died. He then conjured a ghostly-looking hand that grabbed one of the blades from the dead creature and pointed it at the other snake. Move! Harry shouted. The phoenix followed his command and flew up, just in time to avoid the incoming sword. The basilisk opened its mouth and showed its fangs in an intimidating manner. But was instead received with a blade through its skull. The sword pierced the snake's head and embedded it in the wall, pinning the creature in the process. Harry was now starting to feel tired. Conjuration takes a heavy toll on one's magic, much more so than transformation. The phoenix cried again and flew to his side until it landed on his shoulder. It then stared at Harry intensely, like it was trying to figure out if he was injured. I'm fine, thank you, my friend, Harry told the phoenix. What is going on? What was that cry? Can we open our eyes now? The there girls were still in panic. Chapter 109, An Unintended Ritual. Is that a phoenix? Ginny pointed at the red bird on Harry's shoulder. That must be Headmaster's phoenix, Daphne concluded. Is not like there were many birds like that one around the world. Is so pretty. Lyra approached to take a closer look. Her eyes moved momentarily to the 2 dead snakes before she decided to focus on something else. Can I pet him? That's up to Fox, this is not a pet, Lyra, Harry told her before returning his attention to more urgent matters while his sister tried to talk with the bird. It was obvious that this chamber had somehow been filled with basilisks and they started to fight each other. The last 2 seemed to have survived by hiding in the cracks of the walls and ceiling. The smell of food must have brought them out. I thought you said that the giant basilisk was one of a kind, Harry. How come there were 3 of them? Ginny asked. There were a lot more than 3, those pieces of skin and flesh scattered everywhere are definitely from basilisks, maybe there is an entire nest of giant basilisks in here. Daphne drew her own conclusions. Of course, she lacked the information Harry had. He knew just how unique the chamber's basilisk was. An entire nest filled with them, that was impossible. He continued to observe the completely destroyed chamber when a terrifying idea came to his mind. One that could answer several of his questions. A Kodaku. A what? Lyra was next to him, petting Fox. Is an ancient magical ritual, used mostly in Japan and China, since is illegal here. It consists of sealing a great number of venomous insects inside a giant jar and sealing it with a runic array. Harry explained. That seems like a very cruel thing to do. Ginny made a disgusted face. What's the point? Wouldn't the insects just kill each other? Daphne asked. Because of the magic ingrained in the ritual, the insects will not only kill and devour each other but the ones doing the eating would gain some properties from their victims. As the insects consume each other, they would grow bigger and stronger, their venom will also become more deadly than it was before. This will continue until only one insect is remaining, only then, the jar will be open. So the result was some sort of super insect, sounds scary. Lyra shivered. Indeed, the wizard will then capture the resulting super insect and extract its enhanced venom. That was the purpose of the ritual. To create the deadliest venom possible. Harry told them. You think that's what happened here? Daphne did not like where this was going. I never heard a Kaudaka ritual that used venomous snakes, and this chamber is obviously not ajar, but there is powerful magic in its walls to keep it sealed. It could work, I suppose. He thought about it for a while. That would also explain the tremors we have been feeling for the last 2 months. How come? Ginny didn't follow. As the basilisks devoured one another, the winners grew in strength and size. They continued to hit the walls as they fought, and I guess that 2 months ago they started to become big and strong enough to start shaking the castle and breaking the reinforced walls of this place. He considered if that was what truly happened, but this theory covered the basis at least. Aren't you missing something important? Daphne asked. Where is the super basilisk? Ginny asked. That was the thing that got Harry worried. That's a good case. The ground started to shake, and this earthquake seemed much stronger than the rest. Ginny screamed when she saw a piece of the ceiling break off and fall onto her. Protego. A translucent shield appeared on top of her and deflected the piece of debris. Stay close to me. Harry commanded as he created a bigger shield to cover everyone. Is the entire chamber going to collapse? Lyra wanted nothing but to leave this place now. But at the moment they could only remain in place, under the protection of the shield that Harry had created, and wait for it to pass. This tremor was not only stronger but also lasted for over a minute before it finally stopped. By the time it was over, the chamber looked ready to crumble at any moment. Oh no! Harry looked seriously worried now. The 3 girls felt shivers run through their bodies. They have never seen him make that expression. What is it? Daphne asked with hesitation. It seems like my theory was correct. It's coming this way, I can hear it, Harry told them. What's coming this way, you don't mean? Ginny asked to confirm, but already had an idea of what he was talking about. The super basilisk, there is actually one. Lyra asked. What do we do now? Daphne did not take her eyes off him. Fox. Get them off the castle. Harry told the phoenix. This one made a noise that sounded like a complaint. Don't argue with me now, just do it, please. Fox gave out a cry and started to fly but remained hovering a few feet off the ground. Thanks. Harry turned to look at the trio of girls. Grab onto his legs, he will take you out of here. Wait, you are not coming. Lyra exclaimed. I have one more basilisk to hunt. What, but? Ginny looked at him with concern. Do you have to be a Gryffindor until the end? Daphne told him. Harry grinned at hearing this. It was not the first time he heard those words. Are you certain you can do this? She said. Of course. Leave it to me, now go. Harry said with a serious expression. The 3 girls grabbed onto Fox's legs. Can he really carry us 3? Lyra was doubtful. Lyra, don't underestimate the phoenix. He may get offended and drop you off midway through. Harry advised. Wait. Lyra shouted, but Fox did not wait any longer. He flew up and disappeared through one of the massive cracks in the ceiling while carrying the 3 girls. The floor beneath Harry started to shake violently. How impatient! Harry spoke while securing his wand. The ground beneath him broke down completely and collapsed into a black void. Then, from the darkness, a pair of bright yellow eyes appeared. Chapter 110, A True Monster. Merlin, this is too fast. Lyra screamed as the phoenix took another fast turn and entered the pipes system. Where do you think is taking us? Asked Ginny. Harry told him to take us outside the castle, Daphne answered. Fox seemed to increase its speed, and moments later they were exiting through one of the giant pipes that connect to the outside. Whoa, fresh air. Lyra smiled with joy. I miss this. Ginny agreed with her sentiment. The air inside the chamber was beyond unpleasant. They looked back as they were flying away and saw the massive rocky mount where Hogwarts sat. Then, they continued traveling north, towards a nearby forest mountain. You think he is going to be okay in there? Lyra glanced back at the castle with worry. He already defeated 3 basilisks by himself. Your brother is amazing, Lyra. I'm sure he will be fine. Ginny comforted her. He seemed very confident, trust in him. Daphne hoped her words sounded convincing. If Harry's theory about the ritual turned out to be accurate, then, they had no idea what kind of creature would be resulting from that. Fox gave out a loud cry that startled the girls. What is it? Lyra stared at the bird. He must be seeing or hearing something that we can't catch. Daphne's eyes moved in the direction that Fox was looking but didn't notice anything out of place. Wait, I can see something moving over there. Ginny shouted and used her free hand to point at the rocky side of the castle where they had just come out from. The sun was starting to set already, making it more difficult to discern, but if one paid close attention, it was evident that something was moving in that area. What is that? Lyra narrowed her eyes, trying to decipher what she was seeing. That looks like a head. Daphne did not sound very sure. Fox let out another loud cry, and just a second later they all saw something come out of the previous spot. Now it became evident that it was a snake as its extremely long body appeared out in the open. The head of the beast continued to rise until it had almost reached the height of the castle's towers, denoting its tremendous size. And then, it let out the loudest hiss they had ever heard. That's a monster!" shouted Ginny. "That thing is at least a dozen times bigger than the ones we encounter inside the Chamber of Secrets." Daphne made a rough estimation based on what she was seeing. "Harry, where is my brother?" Lyra exclaimed. Her voice filled with worry. She moved her green eyes all over the monster, trying to find a glimpse of him. "We won't find him from here, we are too far away," Ginny said. "Then, we need to." They then were almost blinded by a flash of light that appeared near the head of the snake before they heard the monster let out a shriek of agony. What happened? Lyra tried to make sense of the situation. That must have been him. That was definitely A.S. Daphne was not allowed to finish the sentence, because Fox quickly descended to a nearby valley, around 200 yards, 180 meters, away from Hogwarts' main entrance. Bringing the girls far away from the fight. "Why did we land here?" Lyra asked. "We need to back to the castle. I have to find my brother." Fox turned to look at her and gave out a cry. "Lyra, I think he wants you to let go of his claw," Daphne told her. "But what about Harry?" "There is nothing we can do, let Fox go help him." Daphne put a hand on her shoulder. "She is right, Lyra, we would just get in the way if go with him," Ginny told her friend. "I know." As soon as Lyra released its claw, the phoenix flew in the air towards the colossal beast. "But there has to be something we can do." Lyra felt extremely frustrated right now. "The castle is very nearby. Maybe we can go call the professors," Ginny suggested. "What do you think the professors are going to do against that?" Daphne pointed at the giant monster. The basilisk was now back on the ground. It has descended into a nearby mountain, but it was so massive that they could still see its body poking over the trees as it moved around, crushing everything on its path. They then spotted Fox fly towards its head. "What about the headmaster? He is supposed to be the greatest wizard alive." Ginny had heard those words being said many times by her parents. "Did you forget, he went away to attend an emergency meeting?" Lyra at least recalled that. "Right," Ginny said in a low voice. "I don't have any other ideas, sorry. To be honest, I don't think even Albus Dumbledore would be able to kill a monster like that." Daphne muttered. The situation did not look good at all. She could not understand how Harry was so confident before. "Look." Lyra pointed. "On the head of the snake, I think there is something on top of it." Now that the beast was closer, they were able to spot something standing on top of its head. "That can only be Harry, I hope he knows what he is doing," Daphne said. "Oh, girls." Ginny spoke with worry. "What is it, Ginny?" Lyra sounded exasperated. She was trying to come up with some way to help her brother, but nothing came to mind. Up to this day, she couldn't even imagine that monsters that big existed in the world. There was no chance for her to know what to do in a situation such as this. "Is it just me or, is it coming this way?" Ginny stared into the distant mountain where the snake was moving around. "No, is definitely moving towards here," Daphne said in alarm. "Come on, the castle is very close. We can make it inside." Lyra decided that the only thing they could do for now was survive and hope for the best. A part of her still believed that her brother would somehow find a way to defeat that colossal beast. Chapter 111, Escaping the Chamber. The stone floor of the chamber cracked and crumbled beneath his feet with little warning. And Harry found himself falling into a black void. He caught a glimpse of a deadly pair of yellow eyes and immediately directed his gaze away. Even with only this momentary glimpse, he felt his heart stop for a moment, despite all the protections weaved into his body. He heard a hiss and the next thing he saw was the inside of a massive mouth surrounding him. This monster had no intention or need to bite him, it was instead trying to swallow him whole. You think I'm a snack? Harry pointed his wand down. Bombarda. He put a lot of power in that spell. More than enough to create an explosion capable of sending him flying away from there and to make the beast regret its decision. He could hear its shrieks of complaint as he landed back in what remained of the Chamber of Secrets. Lumos solemn, from the tip of his wand came a powerful light that he used to get a good look at the hole under the chamber. The creature was even larger than he imagined. Its colossal body was trashing around and hitting the rocky walls of that cave, making everything tremble. It became obvious to Harry that this hole beneath the chamber was something the snake had created for itself, after finding the length of the chamber too small for its enormous size. The entire chamber is going to collapse at this rate, I need to hurry before it's too late. Without the support of the ground beneath it, it was just a matter of time before it all came crumbling down into the basilisk's newly made nest. Harry moved back to the corridor where he killed the first basilisk and pulled out a small box and a knife from one of his robe's inner pockets. He had no time to waste before that giant snake recovered and came chasing after him. If all gets lost, he could buy the rest of the materials, but a pair of intact eyes of a 1,000-year-old basilisk was not something he was going to find anywhere else, and this may be his only chance to get them. He used the knife to carve out the eyes of the dead beast with precision and carefully placed them inside the box before sealing it. This type of box was able to perfectly preserve ingredients for many years. He considered if he had time to perhaps get some of the venom. But this was quickly answered when the basilisk brought its head into the chamber and moved towards him. Okay, that's a no. The next thing to consider was, how to leave the chamber. If he travels back in the same way he came in, he will be arriving at that bathroom on the 6th floor of the castle. Or what was left of it. However, he had no doubt that this monster was going to try and follow him if he did that. That could be a massive disaster. A creature this powerful and big, making its way through Hogwarts would destroy everything in its path. It could end up collapsing the entire castle and killing everyone inside. Fighting here was not a good option either. There was hardly any space to move and the ground was uneven and unstable. Harry then recalled seeing Fox fly through one of the ceiling cracks after telling him to take the girls outside. There has to be a path that connects to the exterior there. It was a risky decision, but he had no better options at the moment. He then heard a loud crack as the basilisk approached and bashed its head against the circular entrance that connected to the corridor. The door was still open, but the hole was not big enough for its head to fit through, so it was trying to destroy the entire wall. And with just one more hit, it succeeded. Harry pulled a small-looking stick from another pocket and held it in his palm. Engorgio. The small stick grew in length until it became a full-size magical broom. It was his prototype of the Nimbus 2001. With the wall out of its way, the giant basilisk opened its mouth and took a bite. The first thing it caught was the dead body of its much smaller sibling snake that was suspended by Harry's stone spears. The spears broke down with little resistance under its immense might and the dead creature was pulled away and into the monster's mouth. This also had the effect of creating just enough space for Harry to slip by with his flying broom. The snake twisted its head around and its yellow eyes followed Harry's path. It then attempted to lunge at him before he had a chance to escape, but Harry was ready for it. The arc stones on his earrings lit up with a bright blue light as he activated them to power up his next spell, since his reserves were already starting to run low. Harry conjured 6 giant iron blades like the ones he had previously created to kill one of the basilisks. Depulso. The 6 blades disappeared in a blur and then he heard the snake shriek in suffering as the blades pierced its skin and flesh. But even without seeing it, he knew this was not going to be enough to kill a creature like this one, so he continued its way and flew into one of the many giant cracks that were decorating the ceiling. To kill this monster, I'm going to need something with a lot more power. Not the kind of thing I can use inside an enclosed space like this. He hopes to have made the basilisk angry enough to follow him outside. Then, the true battle can begin. Chapter 112, Climb the Snake. He could hear the monster's angry hissing noises as it did its best to follow him through a complex series of rock corridors. Harry could only hope he made the right call when he spotted a broken stone pipe ahead of him and ventured inside it. He took a close turn that made the back of his broom collide with the walls of the narrow space he was in. This made him slow down enough for the snake's fangs to almost touch him. He gave the broom a short kick to increase its speed over its limit just for a second and create some space between to work with. The small arc stones on his rings started to shine as he twisted his body and pointed his wand around the area where its eyes should be. 3 blades were conjured in front of his wand and the steel edges shone with a baleful purple aura. During their creation, Harry had enchanted them with a highly corrosive dark magic. Regenerating a wound inflicted by these swords was impossible. If he could take out the cursed Ys, it would make this fight a lot easier. Dispulso. The basilisk had no space to move its head in this enclosure. Its massive body was already too big to fit in the pipes, and instead, it was constantly destroying everything around it to open enough space to crawl through. The 3 blades impacted different parts of its body. One on its snout, one on the side of its mouth, and the last one was able to pierce its right eye, destroying it completely. The snake let out a blood-curdling shriek. It was so loud that Harry was forced to cover his ears. The monster looked at Harry with its only remaining eye. And then, it started to increase its pace. Even without looking at the creature directly, he could feel its absolute rage and bloodlust. He had to put his full focus on flying the broom as fast as it could possibly go just to avoid being eaten. Another close turn and he was finally welcomed with a gust of cold wind on his face. This is it, I must be close to the outside. A few more turns and twists, and he was able to see a few rays of natural light at the end of the sewer. Giving the broom one last kick, Harry flew into the open sky. Not even a second later, he heard the snake making noises beneath him, and by the shadows, he realized that its head was stuck at the end of the tube. Not wanting to let this opportunity go to waste, Harry aimed his wand at the head of the beast once more. But when he was about to conjure more weapons to throw, his broom started to shake violently. Come on, not now. The runes were starting to fail at the worst possible time. The basilisk managed to free itself from the rocks by breaking a big part of the mountain. It then looked toward Harry and hissed at him with pure rage. Harry's broom was becoming increasingly more difficult to control, but it could at least fly somewhat. The snake started to lift its head towards him while bringing its body out more and more. Harry flew up into the sky. He was now around the same height as the castle. The monster rose up but was unable to reach him. Despite its massive length, it fell a bit short of his position. Harry, however, was not given a moment of respite, as his Nimbus 2001 chose this moment to completely give up. The piece of wood he had been riding had started to fall down, along with him. The basilisk saw this and opened its gigantic mouth to catch him on his way down. You don't seem to have learned your lesson yet. Harry aimed his wand down. All 7 pieces of jewelry started to shine. Bombarda Maxima. The explosion sent him flying in a descending path while the creature learned a valuable lesson. Harry had to use wind spells to slow down his fall and was able to latch onto part of the snake's body by using a sticking charm. Without his broom to fly around the beast, he will now have no choice but to stick close to it. I need to reach its head, I will be able to kill it then. Attacking its body was a pointless effort. Even with the power of the 7 arc stones, he would be running out of magic before inflicting anything close to lethal damage. The best bet now was to climb its body, reach the head, and use something to destroy its brain. With his mind made up, he got to work. He had to use a wandless version of the sticking charm on his hands and shoes to avoid falling. The snake had started to move and he had no idea where it was going, but it didn't seem to have little interest in the castle, which was quite a relief. He continued to ascend the body of the monster as this one started to travel through a thick forest, busting everything in its path. Where is it going? Harry wondered while continuing to move, one step at a time. The basilisk started to trash around when he got close to its head. It definitely didn't want him there. It was then that he spotted the sight of Fox in the distance and finally realized where the snake was going. Since it was unable to kill him, it seems like the creature decided to go after the other people who were previously in the chamber by following their scent. It seems like I have underestimated your intelligence. You want to bait me out in the open by attacking them. Chapter 113, The True Power of the 7 Arc Stone Array. Fox made a dive attack and tried to gauge the remaining basilisk eye while the snake hissed angrily and tried to bite him. Harry used this opportunity to finish his climbings to the top of the head. He then heard his sister, Ginny, and Daphne scream and got startled. Turned out, the giant snake had not lost track of its target and continued to chase the 3 girls. They had managed to run out of the forest and into the clearing that led to the castle, but the basilisk was now standing in their way, preventing them from escaping. Don't even think about it. Harry stood up on the top of the monster's head. Gladius. His wand transformed into a double-blade sword. The beast was well aware of what Harry was intending to do and tried its best to shake him off by moving its head with violence. But Harry had applied some powerful sticking charms on his shoes and left hand, so he was able to hold on. Divulsa. A baleful purple aura manifested around the sword before he drove it into the beast's remaining eye. This one shrieked like crazy as the blade pierced its eye and the dark magic started to corrode everything, not leaving a single piece intact. Fox! Harry called immediately. The phoenix seemed to already know what he wanted to do next without saying it out loud and approached him. He flew close, allowing him to grab onto his claws, and flew away from the head of the beast while carrying Harry. He grasped at the phoenix's claw with his left hand while still holding his wand on the right. The loss of both its eyes was not going to distract it for long enough. He needs more time to prepare the spell that will kill this monster. While still in the air, Harry weaved his wand in a complex series of movements, and a disgusting-looking green liquid started to appear all around the basilisk. Harry saw this and nodded in satisfaction. That should do it for now. Take me to them. The phoenix flew a short distance away and landed right next to the three girls. Harry! Lyra ran and jumped at him. She wrapped her arms around his neck and held him with a lot of force while trembling. I'm fine, Lyra. He tried to reassure her but could not waste much time now. What did you do to the basilisk? Is screaming a lot. Ginny covered her ears. I destroyed its eyes. You don't have to worry about looking at it. But is still very dangerous. Harry answered. Do you have a plan? What do we do now? Daphne asked with a clear corner despite trying to appear calm. Yes, we should run away now that is distracted. Lyra realized. Run away, where? Haven't you seen who is following us? If we go to the castle now, we will be guiding that monster in there. Daphne told her. We would put everyone in danger, oh no. What can we do? Ginny cried with fear. Harry pulled his spare wand and held them both in his hands. The basilisk had ceased its shrieking. It flickered its tongue while it turned its head around. Without its eyes, it had to rely on the remaining senses to locate them. Is looking for us. Ginny noticed. Harry did not look worried. It won't be able to go anywhere for now. When the massive beast attempted to move again, this one seemed to slip away before it started to thrash around on the spot. What is it doing? Lyra wondered. I placed a slippery jinx around it, Harry answered. You used a prank spell on that massive monster. Daphne said with disbelief. Well, it seems to be working. It doesn't seem like it can move from there. Lyra pointed out. Maybe, but that won't last for long, Daphne told her. That's okay, I just need to gain a bit of time. Harry examined his ring and necklace. 7 arcs tones array. He said in a soft whisper. Time for WH. Libera. Ginny was completely cut, because as soon as Harry finished his chant, all 7 arcs tones became alight at the same time and with much more force than before. The rune work is designed to only supply him with a bit of magic at the time in a constant flow. What he had done now was to release the restraints and allow all the magic contained in the 7 pieces of jewelry to enter his body. A wave of force came out of him and pushed the 3 girls away from him. Bluish mist surrounded him while his eyes changed color from their usual vibrant green to an eerie light blue tone that resembled the shining magical stones on the artifacts. Harry, dot. Lyra had her eyes opened widely as she watched the changes in her brother from the spot where she fell. What is that mist? Is that magic? Daphne observed him with rasped attention. She had read about stories where magic became so concentrated that one was able to see it with the naked eye, but she never thought she would be witnessing this phenomenon in person during her lifetime. Harry stared at them with his dangerous-looking bright blue eyes and cold expression. I need you to stay behind me, a good distance away. What are, Ginny stammered the words. She was too nervous to speak. Now, I'm going to kill this beast. His voice sounded a lot more cold and emotionless while in this state, which made him seem more intimidating even if that was not his intention. He gave the 3 startled girls one last glance before he turned to face the basilisk. Chapter 114, The Strongest Flame, The Spell with No Name. Fox, could you lend me your flame for a bit? Harry requested. The phoenix flew in front of him and, with a loud cry, its body burst into powerful orange flames. Thank you, my friend. Harry gave him a sad smile. He knew this was going to hurt it. Both wands were pointed at Fox. Magna, Incendium. The iridescent fire that came from his wands combined with the phoenix. The orange flames grew in size and potency while they rotated around, creating a brilliant sphere of orange flames. The girls had gone a good distance away from Harry, but even from where they were, the heat was becoming very intense, and had to cover their faces because it was starting to hurt them. Harry then created a protective shield around the sphere of flames as this one grew and ascended into the air. Magna Custodia. Many runes appeared on the surface of the translucent shield and the heat stopped leaking out. This was Harry's most powerful defense. It combined runic arrays with charms, creating a shield that would stop everything. He could not feel the heat any longer but could see the fire keep growing in size and intensity while it pushed back against the shield. But after a few more seconds, the fire seemed to have stabilized and was not growing anymore. The flames were now of an extremely bright golden color, almost white. This alone would be able to decimate most creatures on the planet and turn them into cinders. But against this monster, he knew this was not going to be enough. Needs a bit more. Both wands were pointed at the flames. Fiend fire. A giant stag made of dark flames crushed through his barrier and jumped into the sphere of phoenix fire and combined with it. Harry had to quickly remake his barrier and then was forced to add another layer of protection to contain the violent explosion. What is he doing? Lyra and Ginny stared in horror at the menacing spectacle. Was that fiend fire? Daphne shouted. This was one of the darkest pieces of magic she knew about. And one her father warned her to never use, under any circumstance because of how dangerous it is, even for the caster. She could only conclude that the only reason they were still alive was those strange barriers that Harry had created around the fire. An immediate change occurred in the flames. These ones changed color once more, but instead of adopting the dark red tone of the Fien fire or the light yellow of the enhanced Phoenix fire, they took a light blue tone as they continued to grow in size and become more violent. A third layer of protection had to be added. The spectators stared in horror as the flames pushed against the shield containing. If only a wisp of those flames got out, they would be turned into charcoal before understanding what was going on. The fire turned blue. Lyra exclaimed. Is, actually kinda pretty, Ginny remarked. The triple layer of barriers spun around moving the runes written on them, while inside, one could see a bright sphere of blue flames. Yes, that is stunning and terrifying, Daphne added. She could only imagine how hot those flames were after Harry combined the two more frightening flames in existence. Harry did know exactly how hot they were. He spent many years working also with Muggles to find more efficient ways to use their magic. This was something that combined their scientific knowledge with his own magic. A spell that only Harry knew and had only been used once. Didn't even have a name. What he had just done was extremely dangerous. The reason for the flames to change color is that the fire had raised the temperature to over 15 million Kelvin, the same temperature as the sun's core, and these flames had then ignited the hydrogen in the atmosphere that was now being used as fuel. This creates a chain reaction that will continue to grow out of control until it destroys everything, unless is contained and stopped. His barriers were the only thing preventing this from happening now. The effects of his slippery jinx were diminishing and the basilisk was starting to approach with difficulty. Harry was not worried about that. His spell was ready to be used. The ball of flames continued to get brighter until it became impossible to look directly into it. It was like trying to stare into the sun itself. Harry used his will to move the barrier containing the deadly flames towards the massive snake. The beast was smart enough to feel the danger of the situation. As it felt the sphere of death approaching, it decided to forget its hunt and attempted to escape. Too late now. Harry had positioned the sphere right above the monster. He made a downward slashing motion and the miniature sun descended upon the beast. As it made contact, the flames grew in size even more until they completely covered the massive creature, who only had time to give a short shriek of pain before being silenced. The basilisk may have been resistant to magic, to the point of almost immunity. But no amount of resistance would protect it against something akin to being submerged inside the sun's core. But the danger was not over. Harry had to use everything he had to contain the violent magical fire that seemed to be trying its best to breach its containment now. Pushing against its 3 layers of shields. He heard the girls behind him scream as small waves of heat and wind were able to escape. Harry had to drain every last bit of magic from himself and the 7 arcs tones, but it was finally able to dispel the flames. The miniature sun started to diminish in size until it disappeared completely, leaving nothing more than an empty spherical void with a pool of lava at the bottom. There was no trace of the colossal monster. It had completely disintegrated under the intense heat. Once all was over, the 7 arcs tones broke into small shards that fell onto the ground. His 2 wands were reduced to dust, including the phoenix feathers from their cores. This was not caused by the heat from the flames but by the tremendous amount of magic that he had just circulated through them. This was much more than their wand makers could ever imagine when they created them. Harry collapsed onto the ground, feeling completely exhausted, both magically and physically. I'm not doing that one again. He decided. It had been too close for comfort. Chapter 115, The Missing Students. 1 hour earlier, Hogwarts Castle. Professor McGonagall was giving a lesson about the basics of transfiguration to a group of first years. Her eyes kept wandering to the 2 empty seats on the first row. Those seats belonged to the Potter and Weasley girls. She could not help but be worried. She had only known the girls for a short period of time, but they had never missed a class or even arrived late. And Lyra was especially invested in her class. She has shown as much talent as her father had, if not more. Professor. A student called for her. McGonagall just realized that she had stopped lecturing while lost in her own thoughts. My apologies. Now, where was I? She glimpsed back at her book and found the next chapter. When she was about to resume her lesson, the ground started to shake with tremendous violence. She heard her students panic and tried to calm them down while reassuring them that nothing bad was going to happen, despite herself being also quite scared. I wish Albus would do something already about these blasted earthquakes. She thought. This last tremor had lasted for a good minute and felt a lot stronger than the others. Expecto Patronum. McGonagall called and a small silvery white cat appeared in front of her before it ran off to deliver her message to the other professors. Bring all the students to the Great Hall, classes are cancelled for the day. As the one in charge, she considered it the best course of action. In the event of another tremor to occur, it would be easier to protect the students if they were all in the same place instead of wandering around the castle. And her instincts were telling her that this was not over. I also need to call Albus, he ought to come back. Only 20 minutes later, the Great Hall was filled with people. Every Hogwarts employee and student was present in the room. Almost every student. Did you find anything? McGonagall asked with concern. Professor Flitwick shook his head in defeat. I looked everywhere, and even sent the ghost and elves to comb the castle, but nothing so far. Well, find them, Minerva. I'm sure they are hiding somewhere, startled by the tremors. Professor Sprout tried to reassure her friend. The back door of the Great Hall opened all of a sudden and the headmaster walked inside with steady steps as he went directly towards the professor's table. Albus. McGonagall felt a wave of relief after seeing him. When no one else knew what to do, the headmaster had never let her down. Minerva, I received your message and came back as soon as I could. The board is being quite insistent on closing the school until this matter of the tremors is resolved. Maybe it should be closed, headmaster. Told Flitwick with a serious tone. This last tremor was strong enough to create several cracks in the walls. Saw them myself. Albus, we have 4 students missing, we can't find them anywhere. McGonagall said with urgency. I haven't felt any student leaving the wards unauthorized. They must be somewhere within Hogwarts. Who are the students in question? The headmaster asked. 3 of my lions, Lyra Potter, Ginny Weasley, and Harry Potter. They're also a student from, a second-year girl from my house, Daphne Greengrass. Professor Snape interjected. Harry Potter. Dumbledore muttered. Headmaster, we found something. A ghost came flying into the hall. Nick, what is it? Did you find the students? McGonagall hurried to ask. The almost decapitated ghost shook his head the best he could. No, we haven't seen the students, but something terrible happened on the 6th floor, Nick told everyone. What happened, tell me. Albus frowned. Someone has destroyed a girl's bathroom on the 6th floor. And I really mean destroyed, They. Ghost exclaimed. Myrtle bathroom? Asked Professor Sprout. That was the only bathroom on that floor but no one uses it. Yes, she is very distressed about it, and very vocal too. The ghost made a complicated expression. Did she see who did it? Asked the headmaster. Sorry, headmaster. I did not ask. That's quite all right, Nick. We should go there and take a look. This may be related to the missing students after all. Dumbledore looked at the professors. Severus, Minerva, you can, They all were surprised when the headmaster stopped talking abruptly and closed his eyes while clasping onto his forehead. Albus? Are you feeling unwell? McGonagall was the first one to ask. I'm well enough, I just felt 3 students leaving the castle's boundaries. What? The students left? Sprout exclaimed. Wait a moment, you said 3. But we have 4 students missing. Flintwick pointed out. That is all I know, I'm afraid. I don't have a way to know the identity of the students themselves, just that 3 of them have passed through the wards and left the protection of Hogwarts. The headmaster said. There are of course ways to track down the identities. But the tracking charm placed on the students is basic enough to avoid inflicting on the students' privacy too much, while at the same time offering some reassurance for the professors. We can start by looking at what happened on the 6th floor, suggested Snape. I could search the outside, Hagrid offered. If they went into the dark forest, that could be really bad. Nighttime is approaching and that place can get very dangerous. Dumbledore nodded. Yes, thank you Hagrid, go take a look. Severus and Minerva, come with me to the 6th floor. He glanced at the ghost. Nick, I need you to go look outside of the castle too. I know you cannot go too far. Just let me know if you see anything out of the ordinary. What about us? Asked Professor Flintwick. Stay with the students. Don't let anyone leave the hall. Dumbledore made a worried expression. I think something bad is about to happen. Chapter 116, Discovering the Chamber of Secrets. The 2 professors and the headmaster approached the destroyed bathroom with quick steps. As soon as they entered through the hole where the door once was, they were welcomed by a very angry ghost. Did you come to finish the job? She came flying and screaming but stopped when she saw the person who had just entered. You are not him, who is this? Myrtle stared at the headmaster. Myrtle, you may not remember me, I was just a professor back then but we talked for a bit. I am Albus Dumbledore, the current headmaster of Hogwarts. I don't think I remember you. That's unfortunate, and I'm very sorry about what happened to your bathroom. You have my word that it will be restored, as soon as possible. Really? Her expression changed. That would be. But now, I really need to find the person responsible for this. Dumbledore said with urgency in his voice. Can you tell me who did it? You are going to punish the culprit. He never told me his name. He was a cute boy with glasses and the most stunning green eyes I have ever seen. The ghost recalled. Glasses. McGonagall said. Green eyes. Snape frowned. It does sound like Mr. Potter. Dumbledore declared. He better be expelled for this. I knew that boy was going to cause trouble, it is his son after all. But he went too far with this. Snape growled. Severus, control yourself. Harry Potter is nothing like his father in this regard. You would know this if you gave him a chance. He would never do something like for a prank if that is what you are suggesting. McGonagall pointed to him. We will reserve judgment until we have all the facts, Dumbledore stated to them before turning his attention back to the ghost. Tell me, Myrtle, what did Mr. Potter do exactly? Let's see, he came the other day and just stared at the faucets for a few minutes before leaving. Faucets? Dumbledore searched but could not find anything of the sort on the rubble. If I recall correctly, there were many faucets at the end of the bathroom, right over there. She pointed. Haven't been here in a long time. She didn't want to admit that it was because of the ghost's presence right in front of her. There is nothing left. What spell did he use to cause that much destruction? Snape was genuinely curious. He pulled out his wand and performed a series of scans. Right. Myrtle appears to remember something. He also talked to them. I thought that was very weird. He talked to the faucets. McGonagall looked confused. I think he was telling them to open something. The ghost recalled. What about today? What did he do? Dumbledore questioned. I don't know, I only saw him for a moment, he didn't even say hi to me. Just went to the faucets and then, everything got loud and confusing. Things started to explode and dissolve. I thought I was going to die, so I hid inside one of the toilets. When I came out, everything was like this. Myrtle explained her version of the events. Headmaster, dark magic has been used here, very dark magic, Snape stated. For once he did not try to blame Harry for this. Dumbledore walked towards the end of the bathroom and moved some of the rubble around until he discovered something. There is an entrance here. The 2 professors approached. A secret entrance. It seems to go straight down, McGonagall observed. Snape waved his wand over the entrance. This seems to be the source of the dark magic. Maybe there were some protections in place. Dumbledore frowned. This castle has many secret entrances. Some of them are better protected than others, but I have never encountered one protected with dark magic. The founders knew better than that. I can think of one founder, and one chamber that could be better protected than all the others together, Snape said. You don't mean? McGonagall seemed to have reached the same conclusion. There is only one way to find out. Dumbledore glanced back at them. Wands out, be ready for anything. The trio descended into the bowels of Hogwarts until they arrived at the pool of bones situated at the entrance of the chamber. What is this, skulls? McGonagall exclaimed with disgust and hurried out of there. Not human. Snape pointed out. But neither he nor Dumbledore looked to be pleased either. Headmaster, you need to see this. Snape found something lying on one side of the bones. Snake's skin. Dumbledore noticed. That's massive, there are no snakes of that size, McGonagall said. If this is the place that I think it is, that is not just a snake. Dumbledore looked into the corridor. Stay behind me. They walked through the destroyed passageway and saw what was left of the circular metallic door that was now embedded into the wall, as well as a pool of blood. This is all very recent. Snape spoke. They could still discern the intricate design with carvings of snakes on what was left of the metal door. This truly must be. McGonagall muttered. They ventured further and entered the main chamber. The three of them gasped and stared in awe at the sight. Even in its current dilapidated state, the Chamber of Secrets was a sight to behold. This really is the legendary Chamber of Secrets, Dumbledore proclaimed in awe. Or what is left of it, it seems like a massive battle has been fought in here. Snape looked around at the craca on the walls, the blood and pieces of gore. McGonagall screamed. She was the first one to spot the body of one of the basilisk in the distance. Is that the chamber's monster? It looks dead. Snape pointed out. Let's get closer to inspect it, Dumbledore suggested. What if it's not dead? McGonagall exclaimed. Dumbledore conjured a few big rocks and sent them towards its head. The rocks collided and they then waited, no response. Dumbledore moved his eyes to her. Fine, it's dead. McGonagall huffed. Be careful where you step, it seems like most of the floor has collapsed into that hole over there. He pointed at the massive hole in the middle. Not knowing that the giant basilisk was the one who created that. Snape got closer and examined the creature. Merlin, this is a basilisk. Chapter 117, Following the Trail. A basilisk. McGonagall got startled. A specimen of this size, it must be centuries old, maybe it was the original one, placed by Salazar himself, Dumbledore concluded. So is like 1,000 years old, can these creatures live that long? She asked. We will have to consult with Hagrid, but this seems to be the case. Dumbledore looked around the room. He did not spot the other basilisk because it had fallen into the dark cave beneath the chamber and the third one was completely eaten by the giant monster before escaping. There was not much else to observe in the main chamber. Everything had been completely destroyed and the place looked ready to collapse at any moment. You don't think the children killed it, right Albus? McGonagall did not want to think about a group of young students facing a beast like this one. The swords that Harry had used to kill the beast were gone already. All that was left were the many wounds he inflicted on its body. It seems to be covered in deep gashes, and is very recent. The blood looks fresh too. Snape commented. For what I remember, basilisks are extremely resistant to magic, almost to the point of immunity. The one who killed this one seems to have conjured a series of big bladed weapons to do the job. Whoever did this, knew what they were doing. Dumbledore concluded. Albus, could this creature be the one responsible for all the tremors we have been suffering? McGonagall asked. The beast is certainly big, but no. I don't think this basilisk would be capable of that. Was the headmaster's answer. That being said, the answer for those events could be somewhere in here, he added. Headmaster, do you think I can process this creature? The materials could be invaluable for my potions. Snape looked at the basilisk like it was a pile of gold. I don't see why not, but we have a job to finish first. That's right. We haven't found any of the children yet. McGonagall spoke. I don't think it's safe to stay here much longer in any case. Let's use a quick way out then, Fox. Dumbledore called for his companion. They waited but, nothing. How strange, Fox, I need your help, my friend. Dumbledore called again. He is not arriving. McGonagall had never seen this happen before. Something must have happened to him, he always answers my calls. We will have to use a different way. Do we have to climb back that dirty pipe? McGonagall didn't seem very pleased with the idea. Perhaps there is another way out. Dumbledore stared up at the ceiling. The two professors followed his sigh and spotted a massive circular hole in the middle of the cracked ceiling. Albus, what is that? McGonagall got alarmed. That hole was not made by accident. It looked like something had broken through the ceiling and crawled its way into the rocky foundation. It appears that some sort of creature has wormed its way into the ceiling, Snape commented. The size is disturbing. Just disturbing? If that was made by another basilisk, then, it must have been at least 10 times bigger than this one. McGonagall pointed at the dead beast. Remaining here will solve nothing, and if a beast like that is making its way into the castle, we have to stop it. Dumbledore took out a small piece of fabric from his robes. Engorgeo. The fabric grew in size until it transformed into a big rectangular carpet that remained floating in the air. You have a flying carpet? Albus, they are illegal. McGonagall sighed. But never mind that now. I'm afraid at my age, a broom is not very comfortable. I'm sure the good minister would understand. Dumbledore jumped on top of the carpet with little effort. Yes, you seem very old and frail. McGonagall and Snape climbed on top. Let us go then. Dumbledore directed the carpet, and this one flew into the massive circular hole left by the giant basilisk. The carpet moved at great speed through the newly created tunnel. It had pierced through dirt and stone with little effort, going to show the power of the creature responsible for it. The diameter of this hole is at least 70 or 80 feet, around 25 mt, Snape analyzed the tunnel as they traveled. Meaning the snake should be around 800 feet in length. That can't be right, Severus. A creature that massive could not have been hidden inside Hogwarts without anyone knowing about it. McGonagall said. I'm only talking about what I'm seeing. I don't have an explanation either. Snape admitted. They reached the point where the pipes started, but there was little left of them. Let us hope this tunnel leads to the outside. Dumbledore was dreading the worst-case scenario. Where this monster enters the castle. If that is the case, they may not be able to evacuate everyone in time. Oh no, please. McGonagall was thinking the same thing. The flying carpet increased its pace, moving as fast as it could possibly go, taking sharp turns left and right. Finally, they were welcomed by a gust of cold wind. Yes, is going outside. McGonagall celebrated. Be ready, we may have to lure this beast away from the castle, somehow. Dumbledore was not the type to act without proper planning, but when the lives of his students were at risk, he was left with no other choice. The flying carpet came out of the hole and into the open sky. Looking back, they were once impressed by the sheer size of it, and the creature that made it. Where is it? Snape twisted his neck to the sides but could not spot the monster. Remember to not look at it directly, Dumbledore said, even though he was sure his colleagues knew this already. He made the carpet fly around the castle but could not spot any giant snake moving around the castle's surroundings. Headmaster, wait for me. Dumbledore stopped the carpet in the air and turned his head in the direction of the familiar voice. Is Nick? McGonagall called after seeing the ghost approach. Headmaster, I saw it. The ghost screamed. What did you see, Nick? Dumbledore asked. A monster, and a massive snake. It came out of the castle. It was so scary. I saw it all. Chapter 118, A Trail of Destruction. Where is it? Where is this monster? Snape moved his eyes around the area as they hovered on the flying carpet but could not see anything out of the ordinary. It came from the castle and then, it moved that way. Nick pointed to the mountains. It was almost like it was chasing after someone. At one point, I heard it shriek in agony, but could not see who was attacking that beast. Then, I saw a blinding flash of light coming from that area. It completely surrounded the monster, and then... The ghost made a troubled expression. And then what? McGonagall asked. Nothing, the monster was not there anymore. I don't know where it went. Could it be some sort of vanishing charm? Maybe someone sent this creature away. Suggested McGonagall. Let's take a look. As Dumbledore spoke, the flying carpet took off and flew into the nearby forest, where Nick had told them the monster went. Not that they would need many indications to find its trail. Merlin, look at that devastation. McGonagall pointed down. Looks like my estimation of its size was accurate. Snape had a grave expression on his face. They followed the path of destruction until they realized something. The beast was changing directions here. Snape commented. McGonagall gasped. It was going back to Hogwarts. Luckily, it was stopped before it made it too far. Dumbledore was staring at the area where the ghost was said to witness the flash of light. As he moved the carpet closer, they were able to get a better look. At the end of the beast's track, was a massive circular hole. They could still see light coming from the bottom. It's very hot in here. McGonagall got alarmed. Dumbledore made the flying carpet descend until it reached the bottom. Headmaster, don't get so close, it will burn the carpet, Snape warned. Albus, what is that? McGonagall pointed at the glowing substance. That's lava. He glanced around the hole. It was completely covered in a pitch-black rock. And this is all obsidian. The heat necessary to create something like this would be ridiculous. Snape had studied a bit of Muggle science. Not much, but at least enough to understand how obsidian is formed. Is this obsidian? I have read about it but, I have never seen it in person. Is supposed to only exist near volcanoes. McGonagall said. Dumbledore performed some readings, trying to figure out the cause of this phenomenon. I can't detect any specific spells, the amount of magic concentrated in this single point is just too much. So this was made with magic, it wasn't made by a dragon or something, McGonagall said. Definitely magic. I can't tell if it was one wizard or many, but it was no dragon or any other magical creature, of that I'm sure. Dumbledore. Then, if this monster was hit by whatever this magic was, I think we can conclude that it's dead. Even if this creature was 10 times bigger than the one we saw at the chamber. Snape declared. I need to go back into the castle right now, Dumbledore said with urgency. Albus? What is it? Asked McGonagall. Someone has entered my office without permission. The headmaster said. How? That place is impossible to open without the password, Snape said. He knew well how secure that office was. Dumbledore made the carpet lift again into the sky and started to fly back into Hogwarts. You both have a lot of work to do. Dumbledore's eyes moved to meet theirs. This is very important, what we have seen today, no one must know about, not even the other professors. You want to hide all of this? Don't they deserve to know the cause for all these tremors we've been having all year? She exclaimed. We will tell them that the problem has been resolved. Give me some time to come up with some explanation that will not cause mass panic, said the headmaster. He is right. Snape added. If people found out that several giant basilisks have been hiding under the school, you can be sure they will close the school until it has been inspected, brick by brick. We will also lose all of our jobs. Minerva, there is no need to cause more dread in the hearts of the students and their families. We can assure them that Hogwarts is completely safe once more. That's all that matters. Dumbledore explained to her. McGonagall did not seem completely convinced but knew she had to relent on this one. Now, Minerva, I will need you to repair as much of the damage caused on the 6th floor as possible. And make sure to properly seal the entrance to the chamber. He then looked at Snape. And you, my friend, I need to take care of all the damage that has been caused to the exterior. Just try to cover it as much as you can, I know I'm asking a lot of you. Snape frowned. He was indeed asking a lot. Just covering that hole filled with lava was going to take him days of work. I'll do what I can. I'll help the two of you as soon as I finish checking my office, Dumbledore said. You don't want us to be there with you. What if it's related to, you know? Snape dreaded the worst-case scenario. Could it be? Albus, you can't go by yourself. We should call the order at least. McGonagall exclaimed. Now, calm down. If I thought there was a chance that he was involved in this in any way, I would of course call the order. But I am sure that my guest does not have bad intentions. You seem to know who it is. Snape realized. Dumbledore smiled. I do have an idea. It was someone he had hoped to talk to for a while now. He had so many questions. Chapter 119, A Tough Day. Harry escorted the three girls to the infirmary and left them there. Their clothes were dirty but did not have any serious injuries, just a few cuts and bruises from running through the forest. They had not spoken a single word to him after the fight was over. He couldn't blame them for being shocked after seeing all they had seen today. It would already be too much for an adult, but these girls are in their early teens. Harry held the 7 pieces of jewelry he had been previously wearing. The metal remained intact, but the stones were completely gone. They crumbled into dust after finishing his spell. That shouldn't have happened. I'm sure I didn't make any serious mistakes during the creation of the magical alloy. The only conclusion he could reach was that there was some problem with the arc stones themselves. He wasn't knowledgeable enough to note if the stones he received were of high quality or not. But since they broke in such a way, he could only reach one conclusion. And I also lost both my wands, what a day. He already expected them to break. No wood would be able to sustain that, but not even the cores had remained behind. I guess I went a bit overboard this time. He concluded. With his sister, Ginny, and Daphne behind him. He didn't want to take any risk of the beast surviving. So he went all out for a bit. Now he was going to need a pair of completely new wands. Let's see how that conversation goes. Harry stopped walking in front of the familiar statue of a gargoyle. Password. The statue requested. Move away and grant me access to the headmaster's office, Harry told it in a monotone voice. That is Inker. The statue stopped talking and froze. A moment later, it spun around, revealing the stairs that lead to the office. He did not know the password, but it was unnecessary. The moment he placed his name on Hogwarts Arcstone and tied his persona to the school guards, he gained the same level of authority as the headmaster himself. There was no door in the castle that would not open for him if he requested it. Of course, he knew this would alert the headmaster, but it was already too late to hide now. The events of the day had not gone according to plan at all. He was expecting a quick fight against one basilisk. He did not expect those 3 girls to get involved. He did not expect to find more than one beast. And he definitely did not expect to have to deal with a snake bigger than his mansion. The damage he had caused today was impossible to cover. Dumbledore was bound to find out and will link him to it. Myrtle will tell them that it was me, the one who went into the chamber, and the headmaster was clever enough to put the rest of the puzzle together. He was already suspicious of him since last year when Professor Nair disappeared. He will want answers this time. Also, he knew the old man well enough to guess that he would make sure to cover everything so no one else would find out. I'll leave the clean up to you, Albus. Other than that, he had 2 good reasons to come into this office. Hey, you can't be here by yourself. One of the paintings of a former headmaster woke up in a bad mood. Harry glanced at it. Phineas Black. I'm not in the mood to deal with you today. How preposterous, a student addressing me. Lee. Sleep, Harry commanded. The figure inside the painting froze for a moment before closing its eyes and going to sleep. Another benefit of having headmaster's privileges. Here we are. Harry approached the big bird perch placed near a set of stairs. He opened a small box he had previously conjured and emptied its contents on a metal plate situated under the perch. I hope I got all the ashes. He did the best he could to collect all of Fawkes' ashes after the creature burned away in order to power the flames. He recalled that this plate had some enhancements that would make it easier for the phoenix to revive. And hopefully, that would be enough for him to recover. Get better, Fawkes, you did great today. He then went to the headmaster's chair and got comfortable. What a day. He sighed. His clothes were burned, he was physically and magically exhausted, lost his wands and the magical artifact that took so much effort to make. This was definitely more than what he was used to dealing with in this school. And is not even Christmas yet. He closed his eyes for a few seconds and felt incredibly relaxed. If it continued for too long, he felt like he was going to fall asleep. But then he heard the noises of the stone column moving away and someone walking the steps to the office. The steps continued to get closer and closer until they stopped a short distance away from him. Feeling comfortable, Mr. Potter? Harry opened his eyes and saw the figure of Albus Dumbledore, pointing his wand directly at him. We have much to talk about, I believe. The old man's expression did not show anger but was not the usual calm and kind grandfatherly demeanor that Harry had grown accustomed to over the years. This was Dumbledore in serious business mode. Harry smiled. Good evening, Headmaster. Yes, I believe we have a few things to talk about. Chapter 120, Discussion with the Headmaster Part 1. Why don't you take a seat? Headmaster. And you can put the wand down. As you can see, I am completely disarmed. Harry was able to get a closer look at the headmaster's wand now. It was made of some light-colored wood he didn't recognize. That's not the Elder Wand. Of that, he was sure of. Dumbledore stared at him with his calculating gaze for a few more seconds. Very well, I will put the wand down, but I will keep it in my hand, I hope you don't mind. The headmaster took a seat in front of him. He never asked Harry to leave his chair, so this one remained there. Dumbledore's eyes moved around the room, maybe trying to figure out if Harry had taken something obvious from here until they stopped at Fawkes's perch. Fawkes, what happened to him? Dumbledore asked with a hint of sharpness in his voice. He came to help me with our ordeal. I really hope he can recover. Harry glanced at the plate under the perch. If Fawkes came to help you, he must have felt you were trying to protect the school. Of course I was. Harry had a tone of annoyance at the implication. You thought I was trying to destroy Hogwarts or something. My apologies, that came out wrong. I already knew you didn't have hostile intentions, but I cannot help but be wary, after what I have seen. Dumbledore admired. Did you go into the chamber? Harry asked. Yes, we followed your steps. Went into the 6th floor bathroom, the chamber, found the basilisk, and then followed the tunnel outside the castle. You only found one basilisk. Dumbledore raised an eyebrow. Pardon? I found 4 of them inside the chamber. One ended up being eaten by the big one. The other 2 remained in the chamber. Did you look into that big hole underneath? Maybe it fell there. I will inform Severus to take a look for basilisk, you say? Dear Merlin, how is that possible? And what happened to the biggest one? Dumbledore could not help but shake at the mere thought of having 4 of those monsters underneath the school. I killed all 4, including the big one. That one took a bit more effort and the help of Fawkes. A bit of effort. I saw the hole that remained. What kind of magic did you use to create something like that? There was a mixture of wariness and genuine curiosity in his face. To put it simply, a very powered-up version of an incendio, Harry told him. Dumbledore knew that Harry was not going to give him all the answers he wished for. Harry noticed this. Even if I told you exactly how I cast that spell, you would not be able to create it, much less control it. I am the only one who can do it. A bold claim, some would call it, an arrogant one. Dumbledore seemed dispersed with his answer. People had considered him the most talented wizard in the entire world. He was not used to somebody underestimating him. Let's move on, I'm sure there are more important things you want to know. But once we are done with this conversation, there is something I need to borrow from this office. Harry told him. You want something from my office? Dumbledore frowned after hearing this. Inside this room were a lot of dangerous artifacts that he didn't trust anyone else to protect. He wondered what could this boy want from here. Let's leave that for later, go on, ask your questions. Harry urged him to continue. As soon as he was done here, he wanted to take a shower and sleep for a few days. Very well, the one thing I want to know more than anything else is, who are you? Dumbledore stared firmly into his eyes. That's a very philosophical question, Headmaster. But my name is Harry James Potter. If I hadn't already seen your name written on Hogwarts Arkstone, I would never have believed those words, Dumbledore admitted to him. You saw that? I didn't expect you to go down there that early. Harry made a pensive expression. I went there last year. Also saw your little workshop. Dumbledore said. What made you go there so quickly? Harry wondered where he had gone wrong. When we went to investigate the Acromantulas attack, I detected the use of an apparition. Those blasted detection spells again, I wish I had known more about them before. Harry wanted to smack Moody on the head for not teaching him about that. You probably already know this, but operating inside Hogwarts is impossible, except for the headmaster. The only way to do it without destroying the wards is by inscribing one's name in that stone. Dumbledore explained. So you went down there because of that? Said Harry. It sounded impossible for someone besides me to gain access to that place. But I could not think of any other possibility, so I went. You can imagine my shock when I saw your name written below mine. Wait, is that why you had the paintings spying on me? Harry asked. I needed to know what kind of person you were. You did not reveal much, but it didn't seem like you had bad intentions. So I limited myself to keep an eye on you from afar. Dumbledore's eyes moved back to his. I know your name is Harry James Potter. There is no chance to deceive the Askstone, but it doesn't make it more believable for a boy of your age to do the things you do. So there is more to it. There was a moment of silence. Seeing that Harry was still silent, Dumbledore spoke again. I can take a wild guess and say that it involves time travel, or perhaps something more, Dimensional travel. Harry flinched. Chapter 121, Discussion with the Headmaster Part 2. Seems like I am correct. Dumbledore had a satisfied smile. I don't really understand it myself, to be honest. But I think, what happened to me, was closer to traveling to an alternate timeline. Harry was knowledgeable about the existence of other dimensions, but he still wasn't sure about what occurred the day he died, or why it happened. Alternate timelines, Mr. Potter, I hope you are aware of the dangers that lie in altering time. This is not something that should be played with. Dumbledore said with a stern expression. Don't give me that disappointed grandfather look, Professor. I did not come here out of my own will with a time turner or something of the sort. Harry huffed. Then, what happened to you? How did you end up here? What is the last thing you remember doing in your time? Dumbledore leaned forward with interest. The last thing I remember, that would be, dying, I suppose. Dying you say, and then, what did you see? The headmaster stared at him with an intense glare. Then, I woke up inside the body of a younger version of myself. Didn't you see anything in between? Harry shook his head. I see, then, you claim to be an older version of Harry Potter who is inhabiting the body of the boy who belongs in this timeline. There was a mix of disappointment and something else in the old man's voice. You are making it sound like I came here and stole his body. Harry frowned. And then, what happened to the owner of that body? Is his mind still somewhere in there? Dumbledore pointed at his head with the wand. Harry negated it. When I awoke for the first time, I was in a hospital. Apparently, the previous me tried to attack our sister with a stolen wand, and the spell he was trying to cast ended backfiring, really badly. For the faces the healer was making, I don't think he expected me to recover. So you think he died before you appeared here? Dumbledore clarified. I think that two souls cannot inhabit the same body, Harry stated. At least, complete souls. He thought to himself. Thinking about the Horcrux that used to share his body. My theory is that when I died, for some reason, my soul did not go where it was supposed to go. Instead, I remained waiting, until an opening appeared. That is an interesting theory, Mr. Potter. Dumbledore considered. I have read many theories about souls. But no one has been able to bring any solid evidence about any of them. Yes, many wizards believe that the key to eternal life lies in the study of the soul. I'm afraid that I don't have any solid evidence to back my claims either. That's a shame. If you find anything else, I would appreciate it if you let me know. Dumbledore seemed more interested than anything else when it came to the study of the souls. Harry found this interesting as this was a very controversial topic in the country or even in the rest of the world. Does James and Lily know about your situation? The headmaster decided to ask. They do, of course, they are also my parents after all. I think they deserve to know. Dumbledore nodded. I agree, of course, but how much did you reveal to them about the future? That kind of knowledge can be very perilous if spread carelessly. I shared with them almost everything, but... Harry raised his hand. Before you try to berate me, let me just say that my timeline was so different from this one that any knowledge I have about the future is completely useless. I see. Dumbledore remained silent for a moment. I won't pry on your past. Unless there is something specific that you feel I should know. If something comes to mind, I'll tell you. You have my word, or maybe my parents will tell you during one of your order meetings. The headmaster nodded while his expression remained still. There is one thing that has me curious thought. What kind of thing? How did you gain access to the foundation of the castle? As far as I am aware, the knowledge to access that part of Hogwarts is only passed from one headmaster to the next. Dumbledore glanced at him. The answer for that is quite simple. I was the headmaster of Hogwarts at one point, albeit for a short period. But I think is worth mentioning that the castle was no longer a school during the time I was in charge, it was instead a fortress. A fortress? That must mean that you were at war. Dumbledore looked worried now. Was it with him? Was it with Voldemort? Harry interrupted him. So he came back after all. The old man sighed. Yes, he came back. And you can be sure that Voldemort will also come back. I don't need to be a seer to guess that. I know that madman all too well. You must have had a tough life then. Dumbledore lamented. Is there something else you wanted to know? I do have a request once we are done with the questions. Of course, you must be very tired. There is one last thing that I wanted to ask of you, is about the events that transcurred today at Hogwarts. This whole matter with the basilisk. Yes. Harry asked but already knew what he was about to ask for his silence. I believe it would be for the best if we keep this matter under wraps. Now that this awful situation has been resolved, informing everything about the creatures that were living under the castle would only cause unnecessary distress among the students and parents. Dumbledore said. Harry smiled. The headmaster was not wrong. If this thing of the basilisk was leaked to the media, this school would probably be closed for good. Or at least until the ministry could guarantee that no more deadly beasts were hiding inside the castle walls. That would take a lot of time and personnel. An outcome like that one would be problematic for him as he still had a need for this castle and its resources. Besides, this was the best place to lure Voldemort to, as the boy who lived was here and Harry had a big advantage in Hogwarts. Very well, I agree to keep this matter a secret, but I have one condition. And that would be? Dumbledore raised an eyebrow. I'm sure that our beloved potions professor has requested to harvest the materials from the basilisk, Harry said. He did ask. Dumbledore admitted. Harry raised 3 fingers. 3 vials of basilisk blood and 3 of venom. Is all I want, he can keep the rest. Since you were the one who killed, you do have the right to make that request, but, may I know what are you planning to do with those ingredients? Basilisk venom is one of the deadliest substances in the world. Dumbledore did not seem pleased with his request but did not deny it either. Some personal experiments. But I can swear that I will not use them to bring any harm to any innocent person. Do you need a magical oath? The headmaster hesitated. That won't be necessary. I will trust you, Mr. Potter. I am glad to hear that. Now, as for my request. I thought the ingredients were your request. Dumbledore pointed out. Then consider this my reward. You know, for saving the school and its students. Harry reminded him. Very well, what is it that you require? The old man asked. A book, a rare book that can only be found in this library. Harry smiled. Chapter 122, The Visit. When he went to sleep that night, he jokingly thought to himself that he was going to sleep for a couple of days at least, but he ended up waking up in the infirmary 4 days later, according to Madame Pomfrey. I must have been more exhausted than I thought. He wanted to leave but the healer insisted on remaining for a few more hours at least. Not even 30 minutes had passed when he heard his sister and Ginny come inside the infirmary. No running in here, young ladies. Madame Pomfrey scolded them. Sorry. The 2 girls said in unison. Lyra saw him and hurried to his bed with long steps. Hey there. Harry was somewhat worried about how they were processing the events of the other day. He wished he had been awake to talk with them before. To him, things like life or dead situations or fighting giant monsters were nothing out of the ordinary, but for them, it was very different. He didn't know if their attitude towards him was going to change. They could start to become more distant or even afraid of him. So Lyra, how are? He could not finish getting his words out when his jester jumped onto his lap and almost crushed him with a hug. She has been super worried for you, Ginny said with a warm smile. Oh no, I mean, we all were worried. You have been sleeping for a long time. 4 days. Not even Ron sleeps that long, hee. Lyra. Harry called. MMMM. You are crushing my neck. Ah, sorry, Dot. She hurried to let go and then he saw her cleaning some tears using the sleeves of her robe. Daphne was worried too, but she would never admit it. Lyra smiled. The headmaster came to speak with us on the next morning, after that day, Ginny said. And what did he tell you? Harry asked. He could already guess what he wanted. He had those conversations with the headmaster at the end of every year. He wanted to talk about what happened that afternoon, you know. Lyra started. We didn't want to say much, but the headmaster already appeared to know everything. Ginny exclaimed. We were worried he was going to get you in trouble. But he promised that nothing bad was going to happen. Lyra added. That's okay, I talked with him before coming to the infirmary that day. The headmaster was told everything that had happened. Harry reassured them. That's a relief, I didn't know what we could say to him. Lyra said. But the headmaster asked us to keep our little adventure as a secret to everyone else. Ginny frowned. Right, he doesn't want anyone to know what happened. Lyra looked offended. Yes, and that would be for the best. Harry nodded. Dumbledore's motives may be different than his own, but they could agree on that part. But Harry, you are a hero. Lyra moved her hands for more emphasis. That's right, you saved everyone. You could become famous for his, like the boy who lived, I mean Neville. Ginny said. I have no use or desire for that kind of fame, I can assure you of that. Harry had enough of that in his past life. Nothing good comes from that. Ignorance is bliss. Trust me. But neither his sister nor Ginny looked convinced by this. They did not understand why he didn't want to be famous like their Professor Lockhart or Neville. Excuse me, Mr. Potter. Madame Pomfrey approached his bed. The headmaster is here and wishes to speak with you. Right, of course he is. He looked at Lyra and Ginny. I'll be out of here in a few hours, we can talk more by then. The girls had no choice but to assent. They could not let the headmaster wait. After they left, the old man approached his bed with a warm smile. The weariness from the other day was almost gone. He also had a thick book under his arm. I brought you some light lecture. Dumbledore placed a book on his lap. You found it? Harry read the cover. Time and Space. The title was vague and this book had no author. The reason was that the book was more of a compilation of different theories written by many different authors and compiled by several important figures of the Ministry. Is this the one you were looking for? Dumbledore asked. Harry nodded. If the answers I seek are anywhere in Hogwarts, they must be in this book. Glad to hear. You can have it for as long as you need, but don't let any other student see it. Understood. Oh, I also wanted to say that Fawkes had managed to revive yesterday. It seems like he will be making a full recovery. The headmaster smiled. That's fantastic news, Harry said back. It is indeed, and on another topic, I have spoken with your sister, Miss Weasley, and Miss Greengrass about what happened the other day. Yes, they mentioned it. You told them to keep the whole thing about the chamber as a secret. Harry said. Well, I belie. I agree. It's best if no one knows about this. No need to cause panic for no reason. Dumbledore appears to be surprised by his words. He was expecting Harry to complain about this. Wise words, Mr. Potter, but nonetheless, I would like to tell you, thank you for saving Hogwarts, Mr. Potter. Dumbledore had his best grandfatherly smile now. The world may not know about your deeds, but I will not forget them, and neither will those 3 girls. I'm looking forward to seeing what you accomplish in the future. The headmaster stood up and walked away. The future, hey. Harry glanced at the book again and read the title once more. Chapter 123, Daphne's Visit. Mr. Potter, you are free to go. Madame Pomfrey informed him. That's great news, do you happen to know where my robes are? Harry asked. He currently wearing some white hospital robes. Yes, I'll bring them to you. Give me a minute. Madame Pomfrey turned around and left. A moment later, he saw someone opening the infirmary door with a lot of care to not make much noise. She then slowly sneaked around while moving her eyes around. Harry smiled and kept the curtains of his bed close. The girl moved on her tiptoes with utmost care and Harry kept quiet. Once she was very close and looking inside the curtains of the next bed, Harry decided to speak. You know. Daphne gave out a yelp of surprise. I'm currently the only patient, Daphne. There is no need to sneak like that. Potter. She turned around with a scowl on her face. She quickly recovered and cleared her throat. Ah, is that so? I mean, I don't know what, I wasn't sneaking around. She stood back up and pretended that nothing had happened, regaining her noble demeanor. She walked to his bed and glanced over at him with her usual calm expression. I heard that you had woken up, so I thought I would only be polite if I came to visit. Did you bring me anything? Excuse me. Daphne seemed confused. It is customary for the visitor to bring a small token to the sick person in the hospital. Harry wasn't sure if that was true, but he always enjoyed messing with this girl for some reason. Surely, an educated heir of a most noble house already knows this. That's why I asked, what did you bring me? Of course, I knew that, hold on. She desperately looked for something inside her robes. Here you go. She placed a small box in his hands. Oh, a chocolate frog. My favorite. He grinned. Daphne was about to say something when she heard Madame Pomfrey approach. The healer glanced at her and raised an eyebrow. Mr. Potter, here are your things. These robes are very damaged though. I trust that you brought a spare set. Yes. I did, thank you, Madame Pomfrey, Harry told her. Well then, you can go now. And make sure to eat properly during the next few days at least. Madam, do you mind if I talk with my friend here for a few minutes before leaving? Harry requested. Very well, but don't take long. This is not a social gathering room. The healer gave him and Daphne a stern glance before she left. You wanted to ask me something before. Harry patted the bed next to him. You can sit if you want. Daphne glimpsed at the bed for a good second or two. No thank. That's not, I just wanted to say. Is okay Daphne, calm down. Harry placed a hand on her shoulder. Take control of your emotions with your occlumency, relax. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes. Okay, I'm better now. Good, then we can talk. How are you doing? Harry asked. I should be the one asking that, Daphne exclaimed. I don't know to be honest. I still have nightmares about that monster chasing us. I see. Harry wondered if his sister and Ginny were also having nightmares. He did not consider it before, but perhaps it would be better to erase their memories of that day. It was still recent enough to do it. I can remove those bad memories if you want. You mean to obviate me? The headmaster gave us the same offer. He said that we were too young to deal with those things. Why did you reject him? Harry asked. Because I would also forget about what you did. I don't want that. Daphne raised her voice. Well, if you stick with me, you will eventually get used, I suppose, Harry told her, not thinking too much about the meaning of her words. You mean you are used to fighting monsters like that one? Daphne stared at him with her intense blue eyes. More than you are, at least. Harry gave her a mysterious smile but did not add anything else. Ugh, fine. Oh, by the way, the headmaster told us to stay quiet about what happened. Daphne said. Yes, Lyra already informed me about that. She seemed upset about it. What about you? It seems unfair to you, but you don't seem the type who likes to show off his capabilities in public. She stated. Should I be a bit more like Professor Lockhart then? Maybe I should write a book about how I killed a few big snakes and be featured in the next Witch Weekly. Harry gave her a teasing smile. Daphne made a disgusted face. Please no. He chuckled. If it makes you feel any better, I got a couple of decent rewards for my service to the school. Really, you had the headmaster pay you, how did you not end up in Slytherin? It was my second choice. Don't let anyone in my house hear you say that. Daphne muttered. Now if you don't mind, I should get changed so I can leave this place, said Harry while he started to remove his hospital robes. Daphne hurried to turn around. What are you doing? I'll be outside. Harry waited for a moment until she was close to the door and took his burned robes. He opened the secret pocket and checked its contents. The box containing the basilisk eyes and the remains of his artifacts were still there. Good. He didn't think Dumbledore would go as far as to check his robes while he was sleeping, but didn't hurt to check. He finished dressing, took his book, and left the infirmary. Daphne was waiting right outside. I thought you may have left. What if someone sees us walking together? Harry asked. I'll say that you were stalking me. Daphne gave him a fake grin before her expression went back to her usual one. You know, I was thinking about something. Harry stopped next to her and waited. This whole thing about obliviating us. Daphne glanced at him. What about it? Did you change your mind? Harry, have you obviated me before? Because I have some holes in my memories from last year. Daphne looked at him with suspicion. No. He walked away. Wait. She ran after him. Harry, I'm serious, have you ever obliviated me? No, he walked faster. Hold, look at me. Harry. Chapter 124, Back to Normalcy. December 5th. Harry entered the Great Hall on the next morning and went to sit at his usual spot, between his sister and Hermione. Good morning. There was a strain in his voice as he sat down. His muscles still felt sore and his chest hurt. This young body is still far from being completely developed. I must have pushed way past its limits that day. The good news was that Christmas break was around the corner and he will have plenty of time to recover properly. Good morning, Harry. His sister Lyra greeted him. Morning. Ginny said before taking another sip of her juice. Harry, there you are. Are you feeling better now? Hermione turned to look at him. Yes, I'm all better. Harry wondered if the headmaster had come up with some excuse for his absence again. Hey, Harry. Lavender joined in. Your sister told us that you had a strong case of stomach cramps, was it? Hermione looked unsure. She said that you spent most of the day in the infirmary bathroom, Parvati added. Is this the Dungarian fever again, asked Hermione with concern. Harry, I'm worried for you. Maybe you should change your diet. Harry glanced at his sister with cold eyes. Lyra made an apologetic gesture. Sorry, it was the first thing I could come up with. She whispered in his ear. Fine. He turned around to look at Hermione, Lavender, and Parvati. In any case, I'm all better now. No need for details. Harry, you are finally back. The captain of the Quidditch team came walking towards him from the other side of the table. Say, how are you feeling? I was told you were very sick. Yes, I'm all fine now, Captain. Harry then realized why Oliver Wood was there. I missed a game, right? Oliver nodded with a sad smile. Against Hufflepuff, yes. We had to use the reserve seeker for that game. And, how did it go? Seeing the face Oliver was making, Harry already had an idea. The captain scratched his head and shrugged. We lost. Derry actually played better than expected and even managed to stay on the broom the entire game, but, I have to admit that Cedric Diggory is an amazing seeker. He ended the game in only 20 minutes. There wasn't much we could do, unfortunately. I'm sorry for not being there. Is okay, Harry, you were not feeling well. But I was wondering, we have a game against Ravenclaw next week, do you think? Of course, Captain. I'll be there. Harry assured him. Wonderful, I'll send you the training schedule. Oliver looked a lot happier as he left. That boy only cares about Quidditch. Lavender commented. That's too bad, he is kinda cute, Parvati added. Ignoring the girl's comments, Harry thought of something kinda important. I did assure him that I was going to play, but I have run out of brooms. I suppose that I could buy another one during the next break and use one from the school in the meantime. The brooms are old, but that should be good enough for one game. Harry, are you listening to me? He heard a voice to his right and turned only to find a frowning Hermione. Sorry, care to repeat? I was asking you if Lyra had given you the news about the tremors. The headmaster made an announcement a few days ago while you were in the infirmary. She asked. No, it must have slipped her mind. What did the headmaster say? He was curious to know what kind of excuse that man came up with to explain that. Then, you will be glad to know that the tremors are officially over. Lavender leaned forward. Lav, I was going to give him the news. Hermione huffed. The headmaster said the tremors were caused by some unusual planet alignment that was interfering with the castle wards and causing all the trouble. But that situation has already been solved and there should be no more tremors, thank Merlin. Parvati added. Pav. Hermione shouted. A planet alignment, that's. Harry did not know what to say. That seemed like a poor excuse, but people seemed to believe it. I guess it goes to show how much influence that man has. But I can at least hope he consulted with Professor Sinistra. I went to the library and tried to find more information about planet alignments and their influence on wards but did not have any luck. Hermione looked depressed. And you won't find any. Harry thought. He also said that we are not allowed to leave the castle for the rest of the week, Lyra recalled. We can't go outside. No, we can only visit the inner gardens, how boring. Lavender frowned. The headmaster said that it was for our own protection until the wards recovered. Apparently, there was some damage on the outside of the castle too. He assured us that it would only take a bit longer. Hermione hurried to say. He probably said that to give Snape the time to fix the damage done to the landscape by the basilisk. Harry concluded. Well, it's not like we can go anywhere interesting. At least until next year when we can finally visit Hogsmeade. Parvati said with excitement. That's right, I had forgotten about that. Lavender cheered up immediately. We can start going on dates. Dates? Hermione looked alarmed. Lyra gave a mischievous smile and got closer to him. Oh? What about you, Harry? Are you planning on going on many dates next year? Harry sighed. Please, leave me out of this conversation. Chapter 125, A New Wand. Is there someone inside the office? Harry asked. The headmaster is currently by himself. The gargoyle answered. That's good then, open up. He told it. That is not the correct pass. The gargoyle stopped talking as the structure started to spin around, revealing a set of stairs. Harry went up and found Dumbledore writing something on his desk. Mr. Potter, it is very impolite to enter someone's office without permission, he said without lifting his eyes off the paper. But I brought you lunch as compensation for my rudeness. Harry sat down in front of Dumbledore. There is something I need I forgot to ask the other day, Harry added. Dumbledore lifted his face from the papers, looked at Harry, and then at the table. And where is this lunch that you mentioned? He observed the empty table with an unimpressed face. Right, hold on, Pipsy. Harry turned around and called. Nothing happened. I don't think we have an elf with that name. Dumbledore commented. Papsy, Pasty, how was it again? Pispy. Harry keeps saying names. You are starting to sound like Professor Lockhart when he tries to improvise a spell. Dumbledore smiled. Aha! Harry pointed his finger at the headmaster. So you knew he was useless. He was also my only candidate. Dumbledore said. Now about this lunch. Pisky. Harry just recalled the correct name and an elf appeared in the room. Master called. Yes, remember that lunch I ordered before when I went to the kitchen? Can you bring it here? Master never order any lunch from Pisky. The elf made a troubled face. I don't think you called the right elf. Dumbledore pointed out. Oh come on now. Harry sighed. Pisky, can you bring us some sandwiches, juice, and some of that delicious chocolate pudding, please? The headmaster requested. Of course, headmaster. The elf disappeared with a pop. Somewhere in the castle, there is an elf waiting with my lunch. Harry muttered. Oh well. He stood up and walked to the phoenix stand. Fox glanced at him and gave out a cry. The creature looked a lot smaller now and only had a few feathers. Hey Fox, doing well? Fox gave out a happy cry. Glad to hear. Harry grinned. He should be completely recovered in 6 or 7 more days I believe. It was a good thing you managed to collect all of his ashes. Dumbledore commented. He helped me out quite a bit, is the least I could do. A pop was heard and 2 trays with food appeared on the table. Harry went to sit down. So, about my request. Dumbledore raised his hand. Before that, I would like you to promise me to not come into my office unannounced again. And no, the lunch that you didn't bring doesn't make up for that. Very well, I will not abuse my authority to enter your office, Harry swore. I rather you didn't abuse it at all. The old man frowned. Harry looked at him with an impassive expression. So, about my request, I need a new wand. Your wand is broken? Did it get damaged during your fight with the beast? I'm sure Mr. Ollivander can repair it in no time. It didn't get damaged, the wand is gone, and so is the core, Harry said. Gone, how is that possible? Are you suggesting a complete disintegration? The headmaster became more interested. Yes, I'm going to need everything new, Ollivander is not going to like that, he going to want to know how it happened. Harry said. And how did it happen? Dumbledore asked. I channeled too much magic in a very short amount of time. Harry gave him a vague answer. I see. The old man did not miss this. He wanted to ask more but it was obvious that Harry did not feel like saying much. In that case, you will need a new core. Dumbledore's eyes moved towards the phoenix perch. I'm sure Fox would gladly donate one of his feathers for such a cause. He seemed to have grown fond of you. However, it will take at least a week before he is ready to do something like that. A week? I supposed I can wait a week, said Harry. At least, if he goes back with a core, Ollivander will complain less. That will still leave the matter of his secondary wand. He cannot reveal that to the old man. Having 2 wands is not exactly legal, especially for a student who has yet to pass his OWLS. If I recall correctly, there is a duo of talented wand makers in Spain that I could visit during the summer vacations. Harry recalled. And they could make me something capable of channeling more magic than a normal wand. It would be worth the wait. What about your classes, would you be okay without a wand? Asked the headmaster. I just tell them my wand broke and can't do any practical work. It should be fine for a few days. Very well then. There are still 2 weeks left before the break. You should have your new wand before that. I assume you have no more requests. The old man gave him an intense glance. Come on, Professor. Is not like I ask for much after saving the bloody school. Language, Mr. Potter. You are still a student here. Right, how are things going with the basilisk materials? I would also have those stored at home during the break. Severus is about to be done with the reparations to the outside. Then he can go down into the chamber and process the 2 beasts, it may take a few more days. He is working hard. Hey, does he know it was me? Harry asked. No, I decided to keep your involvement a secret from both Professor Snape and McGonagall. The fewer people who know about your true nature, the better. I already have a hard time understanding the current situation myself, cannot imagine having to explain it to others. Dumbledore sighed. Welcome to my world, said Harry.
Thanks for listening.